Sound check, 1, 2, testing.
Oh, you showing this one? You gotta switch it over to conference room. Oh, okay. There we go. What happened there? Why the Zoom? Why was the Zoom?
Good evening. Grace, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, I can hear loud and clear.
Perfect.
Thank you. And good evening, Andrew. Can you hear us?
Good evening. Yes.
All right, I can hear loud and clear. Thank you.
The meeting of the Planning Commission will come to order. Please rise and follow Commissioner Duarte in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag.
Put your right hand over your heart. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Will the Deputy City Clerk please call roll?
Yes, Chair. Commissioner Duarte,
Present.
Commissioner Guerra,
Here.
Vice Chair Uva,
Present.
and Chair Ortiz.
Present.
Thank you. We have a quorum.
Thank you. This is a time to set aside for all communications for the Planning Commission. Does any commissioner wish to make an announcement or report on a conference or a meeting or request items for future agenda item? Commissioner Uva,
Nothing for me.
Commissioner Guerra,
There you go. No, I don't have anything. Thank you.
Commissioner Duarte,
No announcements.
and I have none. Does the interim city planner have any changes to the agenda?
No changes.
Does the interim city planner have any presentations for today?
No presentations.
Does the interim city planner have a report on city council actions?
I do not have a report tonight for you.
Thank you. Now this is the time to set aside for a public hearing for the site plan review application PLN-22-00102. Does the deputy city clerk have proof of publication?
Yes, Chair, I do.
Thank you. Will the interim city planner introduce staff making the presentation today?
Yes, Assistant Planner Abraham Luna will make the presentation.
Good evening, Chair Ortiz and members of the Planning Commission. The first item before you, you'll be considering the multifamily development consisting of 4 units on a property zoned R3 at 10538 Lorena Avenue. The subject site is 9,000 square feet in size and is located off of Lorena Avenue and 7th Street and is currently developed with a single-family residential home and a detached garage also providing access from the alley. The surrounding area of the site are also zones R3 with multifamily units to the north, east, and south. West of the site is zoned R3, but is developed with a single-family home. This is an existing street view of the property. As mentioned earlier, it's a single-family residence with a detached garage, and as part of this project, it will be demolished and replaced with a higher density development. The project includes developing 4 residential units, each with their own 2-car garage, and will consist of 2 buildings with a Craftsman-style architecture. At 3 stories tall, this unit will be slightly larger in height compared to the surrounding area, but is within the city's development standards. Staff worked with the applicant to achieve a Craftsman-style architecture by adding defining elements such as exposed roof brackets, window casings, wood siding, and a prominent porch that faces Lorena. Other materials were incorporated with architectural pop-outs and facade bricks for the building. On the screen, you'll see a summary of development standards that was required for this project. You can see on the proposed is much less than what's required. Lot coverage under 50%, the building height under 35 feet or 3 stories tall. The front setbacks complying with the 15-foot minimum for the front, side of 5 feet, and rear of 26 minimum. The proposed does include a 33-foot setback from the rear. Parking is compliant with 10 spaces, 8 covered for the 4 units, and 2 additional guest parking spaces. And each unit will have 200 square feet of open space provided by balconies for each unit. The site plan shows the layout of all structures. The 2 units will be in the front and 2 units will be towards the middle of the screen. All units to be 1,733 square feet and will consist of a 4-bed, 4-bath, and each with their own 2-car garage located towards the center of the screen. All hardscape on the property will be replaced and improved with pavers to soften the appearance of the driveway and parking areas. Windows on the second and third floor have been staggered to provide screening and privacy from the tenants and the neighboring properties. You may notice towards the right of the screen, there are 2 additional units that are accessory dwelling units. These units are allowed by state law and are not part of this review of the Planning Commission. All landscaping follows the city's 3-tiered system consisting of grass, shrubs, and trees. All landscaping will be drought tolerant and is compatible with the craftsman style architecture of the building, which will improve the neighborhood and provide a colorful landscape frontage. On August 18th, 2022, the Development Review Committee held a meeting and no department expressed concerns or opposition for the project. The fire department did require an additional fire hydrant to be placed, and the applicant will work with fire and public works for installation and placement of the fire hydrant. And this concludes staff presentation. I'm available for any comments or concerns.
Thank you for the presentation. Does any of the commissioners have any questions of staff? Vice Chair Uva.
Don't have any questions per se. It's a beautiful building, I will admit that. It's beautiful. I love the craftsman style. It's very pretty, very presentable. My only concern is, and I know it's not a topic tonight, is having those 2 additional units in the back, the ADUs. Parking on that street, those streets, Western, Lorena, 5th Street, all that. A lot of multi-unit buildings there, and it's a parking problem there.
Yeah.
I understand it's state law that our hands are tied, so to speak. So there's nothing I can even really comment on that. I do like the fact that each of the 4 units does have the 2-car garages, so that will help with some parking. And those are my comments. Thank you.
Commissioner Guerra.
I totally agree. I went by there a couple weeks ago when this was originally on the agenda, and I went by again last week. And I went at 2 different times of the day, and even in the afternoon, parking was an issue. And now you just have the driveway, with a couple cars there. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, you got, 10 more cars coming down there, where they're going to park. So I understand that. I know our hands are tied for that. I do like the design of it. It fits into the neighborhood because it's all apartments on that and so forth. So it's interesting. The house kind of looks out of place, to be there. And, but again, the parking, is there something else? I mean, I guess you guys have mitigated that as best as you can, but I don't know. What are your thoughts on the whole parking situation? What was the process for you, for the city on this behalf?
Well, for each unit, it's required to provide a 2-covered garage,
Right.
which it does. And with any multi-unit development, it does require guest parking. So you do have 2 extra parking spaces that are not for the actual tenants, but for guests. So that will also help to, reduce the impact of parking. Yeah.
I have a very large garage and I can't fit a car into it. Okay, it's multi-car on there, so that's my concern is continue, and I guess we really can't do anything about it. So, but yeah, thank you for trying to mitigate it as best as possible.
Commissioner Duarte.
Yeah, my question is this, my concerns about it is just, the 3 floors, as opposed to the neighboring, buildings that are 2. But directly behind this, this proposed building, behind it, is it a single story or is it a 2nd-story building?
I believe most of the units on Downey, which is behind Lorena, are 2 stories at the minimum. So it should be 2-story. I don't have that knowledge on top of my head, but most of them are 2-story.
Yeah, because from the aerial shot, I couldn't really tell in terms of whether the structure behind it was 1-story or 2-story. And one thing I heard from you, I didn't hear clearly something about something being staggered for tenant privacy. Can you explain that again?
So in our municipal code, we have window placements to be conscious of where you place the windows, just so it's not directly looking into your adjacent property, right? We did provide the locations of the adjacent property windows and to make sure that they are staggered, so there is that type of privacy where it's not just directly looking into it. So does that answer your question?
Yes. Thank you.
Did we contact the people living in those properties adjacent or next to see how they feel about this project?
Public notice was sent out to all neighboring properties.
Property
but-
owners.
Property owners, correct.
Do we know if they give it to the people leaving?
We're not aware if they do or if they don't.
The municipal code just requires that the notices be mailed out to property owners. The city does not have a requirement that it be mailed out to tenants also.
Okay. And the two ADUs in the back, they're not required to have parking
By state law, they are
by
not.
state law. So those two additional parking spots that are for guest parking can be just given to those two ADUs? Or we're required to give those two additional guest parking to those 4 units?
So the guest parking is required for the units, not for the ADUs.
Okay. So we're pretty
It doesn't make sense. It's just another government mandate by Sacramento. It's amazing.
Just to make sure, it's not we're forced to not have those 2 additional parkings for those ADUs, right? We're forced to give it to the other 4 properties.
So if they do not propose it as part of the ADUs, we cannot force them to have it. No, if they wish to have it, by all means.
Have
but,
we asked
yeah.
the property owners?
We try to encourage it, of course, but
Okay. That's all the questions I have. Thank you. Before I open the public hearing and call the applicant or his or her representative, this will be the time for the planning commissioners to disclose any pre-hearing site visits or pre-hearing discussions that the commissioners may have had about the project. Commissioner Uva,
The only thing I did was drive by.
Commissioner Guerra,
I'm sorry, I pre-mentioned it. Yes, I've been there twice, and once I parked and got out and walked around.
Commissioner Duarte,
No.
and I have none. The public hearing is now open. Will the applicant or his or her representative please come forward to give testimony?
Good night. My name is Edgar Cortez. I am the architect. I work in this project with the staff of the city. And here, on behalf of the owner, Mr. Willie, and I try to comply with all the requirements and all the city standards, and to try to improve with the aesthetic of the street. I see we have a lot of issues, like you say, about the parking, but we try to maximize the space. I think we can do nothing about the parking because we try to fit the units in that area that's allowed for the planning department. I don't know if somebody has any question about that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do any of the commissioners have any questions for the applicant? Commissioner Uva?
No, none.
Commissioner Guerra? No. Commissioner Duarte?
Just one. When the project was being planned, and did you contemplate, or the owner, a 2-story building as opposed to a 3?
Yeah, we try, but we try to maximize because the owner it's like investment project. Yeah, you know, we try to comply with the codes, like I said before, but we try to get the maximum we can. But we did before.
Okay, thank you.
That's an honest answer.
Yeah, it's really, but
And I have no questions. Thank you.
sure.
Has there been any correspondence in favor or opposition?
no correspondence was received. Oh, sorry. No correspondence was received for this project.
Thank you. Is there anyone who would like to speak in favor or opposition of the application?
Good evening. What a disaster. State of California. Is this part of the housing element thing that we went through a while back and rezoning things and changing from single family dwellings to whatever we're going to do now? Clearly, there is not enough room for any parking. There's no accommodations for it. But claiming that your hands are tied is not good enough. We need vocal opposition to this progressive liberal Democrat Party plan from this lousy governor that we have, who is shoving this down our throats. He needs to be recalled, impeached, whatever. This is for high density. This is what they want. I thought we were overcrowded and we need to get rid of people. That's what they're trying to do also. That's what they're doing with the vaccines and the viruses and things of that nature. Because they are dying from the vaccines. People are dying. Population is thinning out. But parking shouldn't be an issue. Because when you research a thing called 15-minute cities, which has now come to the United States, Cleveland is the first city of what they have in mind from the New World Order and World Economic Forum, is that you're not going to be able to leave more than 15 minutes from your residence. So look that up. So we got to shore up this issue and get rid of these cars too, for climate change, of course, you know. We're killing the planet, of course. But this is bad for Downey. I know it's being built in between apartment complexes, but I just wonder, how are you going to sell these units? Are you going to rent them out? Are you going to let people purchase them? And for how much? Is it going to be part of solving our housing shortage issues for affordable housing? I don't know, if you rent them out for $3,200 each, I don't know many people that could afford $3,200 a month, especially a family. So some of these things need to be answered. Unfortunately, the liberal progressive Democrat like Gavin Newsom wants us to go be more crowded, more angst, less parking, less freedom. And this is a bad idea. It's been a bad idea from the start, and it needs to be opposed vocally at every opportunity. Thank you.
My brother, you don't understand why motherfucker had to live in density? I'll explain to you why density in clergy is so fucked up. Propose one-story ADU, 1 and 2 addition units for already 4 units in a small property with no yard. In America influence, we always have yard. Yard for the children, yard for the family, yard to have conversation and protest against white niggers who give us rules to put hydrants when no hydrant was there. Why do you want me, the homeowner, to buy hydrant with the city? Fuck you. You put hydrant, you run the 6-inch pipe, you put water for everybody on the block. Because on page 17, you know hydrant, fuck you. Yes, you provide suitable space for multiple family living. Where? That fucking shit in between 2 other fucking shits that are old. Beautiful building between 2 shits. Tear them down. Let the beautiful building on this proposed budget be proposed. Then again, a long-term goal of recycling land to provide housing units. You heard the first speaker. You motherfuckers are creating density where we can't park our neighbors' cars, our friends' cars, and our tourists who come to visit us from many countries. Fuck you too, America. So again, Walkway and sidewalk to street frontage will remain. Inviting appearance, no motherfucker. I walk up and down. I see bushes, weeds, trash. No one takes pride in their fucking community except me. Me, I take pride. I build sidewalks. I put ADA. I put curb and ramp cuts. You motherfuckers tell us to put hydrant so you can piece off the fucking building. No, you pick up the tab, Mayor. You tell your mayor no more density. We like to live like people of America. When the great American people built homes for every white nigger too. Now you act like a Jew clergyman, just want to fill up the tilting measure tables so you could build, and then eventually fall. Insurance on 3, 6, 50-story buildings is impossible in America unless you pay the players. So fuck you. No more permits, no more excuses. Honor the man's building now because you fucked up. You put the hydrants, 42 U.S.C. 1983, on conditions of PLN 22-00102. Thank you, fuck you.
My mic's not on. Oh, okay. Mike Greenspan, the Jew who's not going back to Florida, you anti-Semitic, anti-Christ Catholics. Now, let me tell you, 1,700 square feet, and these are attached units. There are houses, single-family residence houses that are smaller than that. And of course, there are those that are bigger than that. But something of that nature belongs on its own lot. First of all, that this proposed monstrosity doesn't conform with the other things on the street. Not that the present single-family residence does, but they need to be building something that's more in conformity with the neighbors on each side. I mean, my, what an ugly-looking building that is. You can try to spin it as looking nice and everything else, but it's ugly. I just don't know how ugly it is, whether I should say it's as ugly as Guerra or who knows, or Fatty Fermetta or who knows who.
Topic.
But it's just has no curb appeal. You're going to look at that thing and think it stands out like a sore thumb. It's the current use has a nice sized yard, but it's outgrown that. You just need to have a project that's more in conformity with the other units in the neighborhood. And of course, you're going to fuck everything up on the parking. You're going to have, if 4 people are living each in a separate unit, or 4 families, because you're going to have families, and they bring friends over, 2 parking spaces is not going to cut it. You're going to need kind of a mini lot there for people. The parking's going to be overflowing on the street, and then you're going to have these ADUs. The best thing to do is scale it back and build something that conforms with the neighborhood. Instead, we're trying to spin it of how wonderful it is because the architect's making good money. And of course, the developer probably did an LA thing and bribed the council members. I mean, what else could go wrong? I'm sure something like this might end up with a federal probe into irregularities because some money had to change hands. Where? Under the table. That's where. Because we haven't put the money up out front to let it be known how much you bribed these people, or you guys, or a combination of both.
Topic.
It is. You have a shitty looking project and you're trying to say how wonderful and beautiful it is, and it isn't. And it's just going to fuck up everything in the neighborhood. What are you going to do? You know, if the rest of the neighborhood looked like that, maybe it'd be okay, but it's not.
Okay, so I really like some of the things that have been said. I especially like Mr. Ortiz's comment about have the neighbors have tenants been notified of this change. Yeah, because those are the people that actually get to live there. So why should a notice only say go to whoever owns those big apartment buildings in that neighborhood? Like, why can't it go to all the tenants? I mean, the tenants are the ones that are paying the mortgage, the taxes, so they should have a say. They should at the very least know what's happening, rather than have this big construction come in and they don't know what's going to happen. No one knows if it's going to be a condo or apartments. So there's a lack of transparency. And then, there's the parking issue. Why is it that there's not more concern about that? So there's been discussions about having these open areas be converted into lots, or working with the commercial lots to have a little bus that goes around and shuttles people. That would be great, because we need to solve the parking issue, and just bringing in more density is actually not a solution. So this really reminds me, why is it that our former mayor, now assembly member, Mrs. Pacheco, she said she opposed this law that is allowing for this development, but now she's there and she's not doing anything about it. So that reminds us about how, well, she didn't mean anything she said. She'll say anything for a vote. We in California actually need truly affordable housing that goes for renters. It goes for people that are looking to buy a house. But the prices are out of control. Why are they out of control? They're out of control because, the people that pass these laws, like Ms. Pacheco, are completely bought out by the big banks that are literally getting everything. Like, is this going to be truly owned by a community member, for example, or is it going to be owned by BlackRock and Vanguard, who are now getting all of the rental market? They want everyone to be a tenant, including homeowners. They want homeowners to just be tenants permanently. That's what they want. So is this going to be part of that? If it's not, that's good. So that should be made clear. So overall, there's a lack of transparency. There's a lack of accountability. Again, why is our mayor, ex-mayor Pacheco, not pushing against this? Like, she said she was against it because just for density's sake doesn't make any sense. We need housing that makes sense for our communities.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Commission. Just a couple of questions. I hadn't planned on speaking on this matter, but it caught my attention, I guess, with some of the comments. My understanding is this is supposed to be a business meeting, and it seems like with the profanity that's being thrown out, it seems like that really doesn't fit a business meeting set background. Anyway, with that comment made, my questions on this particular development, unfortunately, there weren't any plans available for me to look at. I'm vaguely familiar with the new state laws on ADUs, but I wanted to understand, does the city have a height requirement? And do we regulate the amount of square footage in comparison to the size of a lot when we're doing this? I couldn't tell from the agenda itself whether the 4 units that are being proposed excluded the ADU units, or is the 4 inclusive of the ADU units? Thirdly, do we regulate residency requirements when ADUs are built? I thought there was, I know it's been a lot of variations in the law, but and changes in the law over the last year, but I understood at some point in time that they required, in order to build an ADU now, I thought you had to have a residency requirement to build that ADU of a minimum, what was it, 2 or 3 years, I think? But maybe you can clarify that issue. And as far as densities, the affordability requirements, isn't that something tied to density bonuses? And is this a situation that applies in this case? And maybe you can elaborate on those questions. Thank you.
Thank you. A staff member can talk to you after the meeting to answer those questions you may have.
Mr. Chair, the one thing I do want to answer to the gentleman is that two parts. Number one is that everything there complies with our city codes and so forth. Obviously, we've been looking at it in our city staff. And the second part, totally agree with him with the lack of respect and the language used. There's just no need for it. So it's silly. So, and it's offensive. Thank you.
Does the applicant care for a rebuttal? Seeing none, the public hearing is now closed. Does the planning staff have a recommendation?
Planning staff recommends the Planning Commission to approve PLN 22-00102 and adopts the attached resolution for 10538 Lorena Avenue.
It is now time for the planning commissions to deliberate. Does the commission have questions at this time, or would the commission like to discuss the item? Commissioner Uva?
Nothing for me.
Commissioner Guerra?
Nothing further, no, sir.
Commissioner Duarte?
Yeah, my concern here is if, for finding number C, whether this development will integrate harmoniously and enhance the character and the immediate neighborhood. Just with the 3-story, we know being in Downey, Lorena, it's a very dense street. So my concern is, and I know the applicant was very honest with it, is just, are we setting a precedent for more density in that area by going away with mostly on that street, the 2-story buildings, but also behind the neighbors? And that's just one of my concerns in terms of, privacy for the neighborhood, for the immediate neighbors, and now they have an additional story. And, now if we go with this, we allow this, are all 3 stories going to pop up there and just add to the density in that area? So, to me, I'm having issues with the finding on C, whether this really will integrate into the neighborhood. So those are my concerns as of now.
And I have no further questions. What is the pleasure of the Planning Commission? May I have a motion, or will the commissioners like to discuss the matter more?
I'll make a motion to accept the recommendation from staff.
I will second that motion.
May we have a vote?
I do also, just want to add that I have density concerns too, okay? And parking concerns, a lot of them. But I do believe that's why I made the motion out there.
Please vote.
The motion passes 3-1 with Commissioner Duarte voting no to approve PLN 22-00102 for a site plan review. Okay, thank you.
The action of the Planning Commission will be final unless the matter is appealed to the City Council with the appropriate fee within the next 15-day period as set forth in the city's municipal code. Now this is the time to set aside for a public hearing for site plan review and conditional use permit application PLN-22-00052. Does the Deputy City Clerk have proof of publication?
Yes, Chair, I do have this.
Thank you. Will the interim city planner introduce staff making the presentation?
Yes, Senior Planner Gerardo Marquez will make the presentation.
Good evening, Chair, Commissioners, and members of the audience. The second case before you tonight is PLN number 22, PLN 22-00052, which is a site plan review and conditional use permit request to develop a new 4,777 square foot Chick-fil-A restaurant with drive-through facilities. Subject site is located at 9180 and 9148 Telegraph Road. Subject site is located on the southwest corner of Telegraph Road and Serapis Avenue. As seen here, the subject site is comprised of two separate parcels. Both of these parcels hold a zoning designation of C2 General Commercial. Along the northern 42 feet of the site is a now obsolete zoning designation of PB parking buffer. That parking buffer zoning designation will be part of a future zoning map overhaul, which will go hand in hand with other updates to our zoning map and general plan. Subject site, as mentioned, are two separate parcels. This site is approximately 73,870 square feet. There are two existing restaurant uses, Chris's Burgers and Frantone's. The new restaurant will be a retail restaurant of 4,777 square feet with outdoor dining area of 574 square feet. Here's this street view of the existing site and the two structures that are currently occupy it. So I want to provide a little bit of background. On the left, the middle column shows the minimums and maximums per the Downey Municipal Code, and the far right column shows the proposed standards for the structure. C2 zoning requires a maximum lot coverage of 50%. The proposed structure is only going to cover 6.5% of the lot. C2 allows for a maximum height of 45 feet or 3 stories. The proposed structure will be a single-story, 23 feet high structure. There is a minimum landscape requirement of 10% of the lot area. This proposal will double that and be providing 20%, which is approximately 15,185. Along Telegraph Road, which would be considered the front, there is a required setback of 15 feet. The development will be providing 145 feet. The front area of the site will be used for a significant most of the parking for the site, and would focus a lot of the vehicle circulation on that around that area. Along the Serapis side, which would be considered the street side, there is a 5-foot setback requirement, which will they be meeting. Along the rear, given that the property abuts a residential zoned lot, there is a 46-foot setback requirement, which this development will be providing. And along the side, which abuts additional commercial uses, there is no setback requirement, but they will be providing a 47-foot setback. Additionally, Downey Municipal Code calls for 1 parking stall per 100 square feet of gross floor area of the structure. With that said, this structure would require 54 parking stalls minimum. The applicant decided to provide 61 stall, exceeding the minimum by 7. Here we see a site plan of the location. The proposal will be developed along the southern portion of the site, which would allow for the drive-through aisles to sort of go around along the southern portion and the bordering southern portion of the lot. As you can see, a lot of the parking, all the parking will be dedicated along the northern portion of the area. Here's a landscape plan. There will be as mentioned before, there will be significant landscape placed all around the site. And as mentioned before, it will be following our 3-tiered system, which consists of ground cover, shrubs, and trees. Here are some elevations. Staff worked with the applicant to provide a development with higher quality facade treatment, as well as more of a modern type of architecture, which is consistent with other developments within the city. They provided not only horizontal but also vertical modulation to eliminate any type of monotonous facades, and also a mixture of architectural treatments with wood veneer, stucco, and a significant amount of glazing. Here's a rendering of the site, bird's eye view off of Serapis looking onto Telegraph Road. Here's another rendering bird's eye view off of the intersection of Serapis and Telegraph Road. The conditional use permit drive-through component. Staff reviewed the project for compliance with city's development standards. City development, Downey Municipal Code has specific standards which looks at a lot of development requirements such as parking, trash enclosures and whatnot. The ones that staff really focused on, given the popularity of this specific user, was setbacks, queuing, delivery hours, and parking. Additionally, given the popularity again of this user, staff asked that the applicant move forward with the traffic impact analysis, which looked at the queuing, parking, and interaction with adjacent uses. With regards to queuing, the traffic impact analysis came up with the conclusion that this site at its peak would be requiring a stacking of 22 vehicles. With that said, the applicant did provide double that by providing 44. Parking and how it interacts at this site with the queuing will not be blocked, I guess, by any type of queuing that would come from the drive-through use and interaction with adjacent uses. Staff was cognizant of adjacent uses such as there is a school directly adjacent to the site. We did work with the traffic engineering company to, put that study in the analysis, and they came up with the conclusion that the peak hours for Chick-fil-A, which are approximately from 12 to 1, do not coincide with the peak hours of traffic for the school's dismissal times in the afternoon, which I believe is from 12:30 to 3:30. Here is again, site plan showing the queuing of the vehicles. I know it's a little bit light, but along the along the bottom, you can see the vehicles stacked, right? And we asked for this site plan to demonstrate the number of vehicles that would be stacked. Per Downey Municipal Code, our minimum requirements are 4 vehicles before the order board and 4 vehicles after. This development will exceed that by providing 6 before the order board and 8 from the order board to the pickup window. Now, keep in mind there are multiple lanes, right? And the third lane would only be opened up if there is a need to, right? So within the traffic impact analysis, it did note that Chick-fil-A does provide, mitigation plans for when it does get to that level. But as mentioned before, the projected maximum for this site would be 22. So, I mean, staff was happy when the applicant proposed the 44 stacking for this site. This project was presented to the Design Review Committee, and we did receive feedback, again, from Public Works with regards to any possible traffic impact. So staff, not only planning staff, but also Public Works was involved in the review of the traffic impact analysis, and it was reviewed by our traffic engineer to his satisfaction. This concludes staff's presentation.
Thank you for the presentation. Does the planning commission have any questions of staff? Commissioner Uva?
Very nice presentation. I don't ever recall getting a staff report package that was ever this thick. It was a lot to go through, which I did go through. I don't really have questions for you as staff, but the applicant is here tonight, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
The applicant and the traffic engineer are with us via Zoom, I believe. Yes.
Okay, perfect. I think I'll have more questions for them.
Perfect.
Commissioner Guerra?
So, so on this particular plan, a second restaurant cannot be added onto that later. And the reason I ask, because I know Chick-fil-A usually they partner up with the Habit. So I'm just kind of curious. I see the plans and I understand them, but in the future they can't try to put in a Habit next to it. On this particular lot size, it wouldn't be permissible under our findings now.
I mean, as mentioned, right, they exceed parking by 7.
Right,
right?
61 versus 54.
I wouldn't foresee
Right.
any other development coming in that would be able to satisfy development standards as well.
So that's my other question. So there's 61 now versus 54 right now. There's 61 that's going to be proposed parking stalls. So how many, when you add the cars in the queue though, how many is that really reduce it to or make it? I mean, it's because I know the queue. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, we understand the
Yeah.
busyness of it, and that's okay. That's a good thing.
Yeah, so the 54 parking stalls what's required, they are exceeding that requirement by providing the 61, right? So the 61 plus the 44, that would be anticipating just no activity in the restaurant, so there wouldn't be any flowing of customers, right? So at any one time, if that were to happen, there'd be 105
Okay.
vehicles there.
Okay, so how many? Let me go back a different way.
Yeah.
And I couldn't find it in there. How many? And you said something about how many cars in the queue. How many cars can be in the queue in both these lines? Because this looks like a longer line in a good way than the one on Firestone, right? So
Yeah.
how many cars can be in both the double lines on the queue, if you will, at maximum?
The maximum capacity of the queuing lanes is 44.
24?
44.
44.
Yes.
Okay. Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. I have no more questions. I'll make comments later on, but
I
yeah,
have one.
thank you.
So when those 44 cars are in that queue, and there's cars parked that people have gone into the restaurant to dine, and they're parked in one of those 61 spaces, are they going to have trouble getting out or in to their parking space because of the line of cars for the drive-through?
As I mentioned, there, and if I could go back to the site plan and show you the site plan if you'd like, but as the traffic impact kind of states, the anticipated maximum for this site would be 22. So that's it, they doubled that. So if there ever were that case, I do believe that they provided still additional queuing for an additional 2 to 3 vehicles before it's able to intervene with any parking stall.
Okay.
And the parking stalls that it would be intervening with, I believe, are limited to 4 or 5.
Yeah,
So-
it looks like the 4 or 5 that are kind of right there, I don't know how you describe it, right?
Correct, yeah.
Closer to the building, those I
Yes.
think would be the ones impacted.
That's correct.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Commissioner Duarte?
No questions for staff.
And I have none. Thank you. Before I open the public hearing and call the applicant and or his or her representative, this will be the time for the planning commissioners to disclose any pre-hearing site visits or pre-hearing discussions that the commissioners may have had about the project. Vice Chair Ua?
No, I just drove the property and drove through the property, the parking, and just drove all around it.
Commissioner Guerra?
I've eaten at both establishments in the last 2 weeks, and I have parked and walked around there. So, and I bought my wife a heart-shaped pizza at Frantone's on Valentine's Day, so I do know it well.
Commissioner Duarte?
Same. If you lived in Downey, you've probably been to that Frantone's. Has a lot of sentimental value.
And the burger place too, yeah.
Yeah. So it's just very well known that area. But other than that, no disclosures.
Same. Been to Frantone's many times, so It's unfortunate that we're getting a Chick-fil-A instead. But that's it for me. The public hearing is now open. Will the applicant or his or her representative please come forward to give testimony?
Good evening, commissioners. I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. Really takes a long time, a lot of effort, a lot of coordination with the city. And so I just also want to say a special thank you to the city staff, Gerardo, all of the departments involved. Getting to this point takes a lot of work and a lot of time, and we're really excited to be here. Getting to this point is just a huge overhaul, and we believe that the site plan that you guys see before you is certainly the most optimal, efficient use of the site so that we can use it to the benefit of just being completely self-maintained and, again, most efficient, safe circulation. And again, we're just excited to be here. Thank you. We have our team here. My name is Carlos Arias, Development Manager for Chick-fil-A. We have a couple of consultants for traffic and development consultants that will also answer any questions.
Thank you. Do any commissioners have any questions? Commissioner Uva?
So my questions are really focused on traffic, congestion. I mean, I know what Chick-fil-A is. We all know there's always crowds, there's always lines. Lots of times it flows onto the, the main street, which in this case would be Telegraph Road. I mean, I've read everything. Everything here looks so good and so solid, but then in reality, when it's up and running, we all hope that it runs just like you're proposing. There was one of the pages on our report had to do with the queuing, and it was the three locations that you put in this report were the Campus Drive in Irvine, the San Juan Capistrano, and the Yucaipa Chick-fil-A's were the examples that were pretty much throughout our report. And I noticed that the Yucaipa one, I think the way I'm reading this, it had 3 lanes, and the other 2 had 2. Is that correct, or am I not reading that right?
2. So 2 order points at the entrance, and then 2 at the exit. That was the one in Yucaipa, but none of them had 3 at the order point.
They don't?
Correct.
Okay. Because the Yucaipa one seemed to have shorter frequency, the car was in the line the shortest amount of time as opposed to the other 2, and I thought maybe it had the 3rd lane.
Yeah, so I mean, that's exactly one of the benefits here. You may not see too many of fast food users or anyone really with the drive-through component with the 2nd lane all the way around the outside. And it's really all of our new stores that are being proposed throughout the country have that design. And one of the reasons is because it's been a complete game changer for us. It's really helped us become a lot more efficient with our cars and our throughput. If we can get our cars in and out of the drive-through lane as quickly as possible, they're not backing up into the parking lot, which means they're not backing up into the drive aisles, they're not impacting neighbors, and certainly the right-of-way. And so it's just been a complete wonderful thing for us. And so we don't have too many of the stores that have been opened up yet, so it's hard to point to those, but that's one of the reasons is it really increases our efficiency through the drive-through lane.
The store, the restaurant that's in the city of Norwalk, which is like borderline Downey. I almost want to call it Downey all the time because it's just right there. That looks like it wraps around the whole building, right? And that's been open for maybe a month?
Yeah, exactly. Yes, the one right out front. Yes, that one's been open for about a month. And that also is one of the newer stores that have opened again with that 2nd lane all the way around. Again, another site that has a healthy amount of stacking for the same reason that we need the bigger sites, or at least the larger stack, so that we can accommodate our customers. At the end of the day, we want to be good neighbors. We want to be good neighbors, and also we have zero interest in impacting the right-of-way. So that was one of the concerns. That was something that was heavily scrutinized as a part of the traffic impact analysis. That took probably a lot more scrutiny than anything else, at least in my opinion. But it's important either way, and it's the last thing we want. One of the other things that may not be totally obvious is, so we doubled the amount that was essentially required, but then there's also plenty of options for additional circulation to even serpentine around the site if there's some unique, unforeseen circumstance where even that goes, further beyond. Again, it's unlikely we went double what we had studied at the other stores. But if something comes up, just from a traffic circulation standpoint, we have a healthy amount of room on the outside. We even went wider on the northernmost lane just to make sure that there should be zero backup, or at least to keep things moving throughout the site. I think you mentioned that was one of your concerns. Can cars move around efficiently? And that's us really thinking through all of that. Again, working with the city staff. I think that's how it should work, but yeah.
Then my other question is, you tend to not have people order from the box or whatever you want to call it, and you have live people out there. Does that help speed up the process? I thought I read something in here that's a true fact.
Absolutely, yeah. What technology has really helped us in that we have an iPad ordering system, a cash payment system as well for those that prefer a cash. And so what that does is it allows us the ability to start taking on more orders sooner. And so the more we can take upstream, our food really just doesn't get made until you order it. And so the more we can start logging in the orders, the more our team members can plan accordingly. And so by the time you get to the window, you're really not there very long. And they're really, in theory, hopefully, at least for smaller orders, but you have the food ready when you get to the window, as long as you're not ordering for the entire office.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Thank you very much. Those are my questions.
Commissioner Guerra?
So I think sometimes you're a victim of your own success, as we know, and that's that's business 101 and so forth. I was mayor when we had the grand opening on the Firestone Boulevard. I haven't missed too many meals. I am a Chick-fil-A fan. I want to make that announcement on there so there's no conflict of interest. I eat there at least once a week. I don't go to the one on Imperio in Lakewood because you can't get in and out of there. I wouldn't want to rent one of the tenants there in that thing because you can't park there. It's only Chick-fil-A zigzagging in and out. And I understand the timings there. You guys are a case study in business 101 on efficiency. Your lines, I'm always amazed at how efficient they are from the first name thing. By the time you get it, it's a fraction of the time in most other places. So I give you kudos for that. I am worried about that particular location, though. Having said all that, and so please don't take any of the things we're saying seriously. We understand and we appreciate you want to invest in our community and our city. But there's just a lot of concerns there. I'm not worried about the number of Chick-fil-A's because, again, that's just successful, and you guys are not going to put your money where you're not going to get a return on investment on there. From us as a community, we have to look at the findings and everything else. So I understand your process. I mean, we're sad. It's like, I love Chick-fil-A. Having said that, I'd rather keep Frantone's. But that's not my decision on there. We have to legally do it, and you guys as the property owners and so forth. So having said that, I just want you not to take anything personally that we're discussing in my later comments on there. And thank you for wanting to invest in our city, and we do appreciate that. But there are some concerns there. And my question to you is, you guys do as a business model usually team up with the Habit. Is there a reason why you guys didn't, or you guys don't, or the Habit usually wants to tag on your success kind of thing? Or is that not
I mean, I can answer that just plainly. We don't partner up with them. Usually you see us very close to one another. A lot of people point to In-N-Out more than the Habit, but it usually has to do with the allowed areas where we can go, such as this, and for the proper zoning. So outside of that, there's not a whole lot of options, but probably one of the bigger reasons.
Just anecdotal then, okay. And
absolutely. No, we don't partner up with.
So my last question is, so why that location? How did you? I don't know if you guys can share that. Why there? how that came about.
I am not the real estate person, but I think the opportunity came to us. We did not go necessarily knocking on that door, is my understanding. But in fact, I think the property owner may be here tonight and may be speaking to that. But yeah, the opportunity came to us.
Okay. All right. Thank you. No further questions.
Commissioner Duarte?
No questions for me. I think our two other planning commissioners asked some of the things that I was curious about, so nothing for me.
I do have one question, and if the traffic staff or, person that's on via Zoom, if they can answer that question for me?
Yes, I'm present.
Thank you. My question is, through this study, we do not expect that the cars are going to bleed out to the other parking spots, because when I'm looking at the view of the Chick-fil-A, there are 7 slots that are close to Telegraph. And I'm a big Chick-fil-A and In-N-Out eater, and I just imagine myself when I'm in In-N-Out on Firestone, and the line is just so long and it goes into the spots, and I cannot exit those spots. And not only that, those spots are just clearly right next to the entrance and exit on Telegraph. Do you expect having those 3 lanes that we're not going to expect lines going all the way down?
Yeah, so thank you for that question. And perhaps let me allow myself to introduce myself to the commission. My name is Grace Turney. I am with LLG Engineers out of their Pasadena office. And it's a pleasure to be able to attend via Zoom and answer your questions tonight. As far as the question regarding whether or not the drive-through stacking is expected to block those parking spaces, which I would describe as being on the west boundary of the project site. Again, just to clarify that the anticipated storage space in those 3 drive-through lanes is 44 vehicles without extending beyond that provided stacking space. In the hopefully unlikely event that the queue would extend beyond that 44 available vehicle stacking space. As Carlos has highlighted, there is on-site space along the north portion of the project site. There's that sort of additional lane along their northern drive aisle that could accommodate additional vehicles without blocking those parking spaces. So we would say it's unlikely that those parking spaces would be blocked. I would also offer that, Chick-fil-A is expert at managing their site, and should that become an issue, I'm sure that they would recommend that their employees park in that space or other long-term parking users in order to minimize the effects potentially of any blockage for typical patrons exiting and entering those sites.
And Commissioner, if I may just add to that, we want our customers to have a great experience. We don't want to trap anyone in. And so she's absolutely right. What would most likely happen is we would have our team members park there because they're inconvenient areas, if you will. And the other thing that we intentionally did work with the city on was developed a striping area there just for the most amount of flexibility to that extent, right? So if cars start to back up, they could, in theory, really back up there if absolutely needed. It's just a little extra wiggle room for cars. Again, in the unlikely event that they go past 20, even 30, there's 44, and we're saying even more than that, then we have still yet more flexibility. But our intent is to provide our customers with the more convenient stalls. So it's well said.
My mind is still the same, where we always say the unlikely event,
Yes.
but I've been in this seat and everybody says the unlikely event that something like this does happen. And it does happen. So that concludes some of my questioning. Thank you. Has there been any correspondence in favor or opposition?
Yes, correspondence was submitted to staff, and a copy has been provided to the Planning Commission.
Thank you. Yes.
Before you open the hearing up for public comment, can I ask a staff one more question? Or is it appropriate time, or is it at later after that?
We can answer.
So page 38 of the agenda, the PC agenda, it's the map. It's the visual map like this, page 38. So what's going to be impacted there that I'm noticing and thinking through that process is what's west of this parking lot. You know, those 7 spaces you talk about, and then you have, I know it's like a little strip, it's like a business there and so forth, but all that's going to be the traffic line right there and the queuing. So do we know, has that business owner also been contacted next door? Are they aware of it? Or what mitigation situation have we done or are we doing? Because that line, you know, your blue outline directly west there, halfway through the lot size, that's what's going to be impacted, in my opinion. You see what I'm asking? Yeah, right here. Yeah, right here. See, so whatever that business is there, they're going to have all these cars going through here, right? In the queue line to order. So how?
So I do believe that, as was mentioned before, that this site will be self-contained, and there would be a landscape border along that perimeter.
Okay, so then I guess I'm going to have to, I mean, I took the landscaping as a given. I guess I'm going to have to see how high in the whole thing. But again, you're going to have, you know, 44 cars in those 2 lines right next to that business there. So that's, I think, I'm sure there's been some mitigation thing. I just need to know what that is. So maybe you can get that answer for me or later, or whoever designed this, or that's,
Right.
that's a concern right there where those cars are going in.
Go ahead.
Because this is beautiful.
Yeah.
And so forth, but these are generated computer. It doesn't, the business right here on the west side of it is going to be impacted literally right there. All these cars going right there, so all these businesses. So this looks like nice landscaping, but
yes,
I have, you know what I'm saying is, it's like,
Because of that Imperial one.
yeah,
That's a huge.
yeah, you're going to be sitting in that line there, and that's, so, I mean, have we thought of, I guess, the height of the landscaping, the parking lot smoke from the cars in the queue? I mean, I don't know. I guess I'm asking a lot of questions there because that came up. Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe you can answer, sir.
Sure. So the answers we have been in touch with, I'm assuming you are referring to the left side of the page on the site plan, right, to the directly adjacent commercial use?
Correct.
Yep, we have been in touch with them and the property owner. In fact, we needed their approval for us to be able to close off that drive aisle that's currently being shared. So yes, we have been in touch with them. In fact, we're actually having to reconfigure even their trash enclosure so that it faces the other way, so that we're doing that work for them so that the truck can come in directly. So we've been in plenty of conversation with them as well. They know.
Yeah. And from a landscaping standpoint, do you have a height or thought process what's going to be there from mitigating the? And I'm glad to hear that you're working with them. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, we might take me a minute to look at the plans.
Sure,
I
sure.
just
You can come
don't
back to that.
know
I just-
what the maturity of those plants are.
Yeah.
But we do provide a landscaping plan that has been thought through. It looks like.
Yes.
Okay.
Commissioner, this is Andrew Hunt. I work as a consultant for Chick-fil-A on this project, if I may just add. So what separates the west property, there's a couple of different things. As far as the drive-through entrance goes, let me start this real quick. As far as the drive-through entrance goes, all of that is almost contained the entire run by a block wall that's currently existing. So there's a retaining/block wall that screens the entire drive-through lane. And then as you go north on the property, you do have a 6-inch standard curb. You'll have some shrubs in there. As you look at the landscaping plan, if you do have a copy of it, there are some trees that also go in there. I think there's 3 or 4 trees that line that property. So half of the property line on the west side is actually currently a wall. It will stay a wall. And then as you go north on the other half of the property line, you do have trees, shrubs, and plants in there that will delineate the west property that's adjacent to us and our property. So there would be two separate properties.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you.
Any other questions of the commissioners? No? Oh.
Hi.
Oh, yeah.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Anthony Tesserero, and I am the property owner, one of them. And I'm here to speak on behalf of Chick-fil-A. We actually, 4 or 5 years ago, began developing and talking about what we're going to do with our property and where we're going with our business, because we also own Frantones. And I'm very glad to hear that you hate to see us go, but this is our end game, and this is something we'd like to do. We actually chose Chick-fil-A because we feel that they have a very good reputation in their existing neighborhoods and in the existing stores they have here. And they're a very, very good company. They seem to espouse the same type of attitude we have about the cities they're in. We've always tried to give back to our community as much as possible. It's been our thing. And they also are that type of business. And that was one of the reasons we chose them, among others, obviously, but that was. And so I just wanted you to know that we are very happy to have them on our property, and we hope that we will be able to go forward with this. Thanks a lot.
I appreciate you sharing that on there. It means a lot coming from.
By the way, this is my brother, also one of the owners.
Yeah.
So.
And we'll still be open in Cerritos.
By the way, we'll still.
You got to deliver the pizza, man. No, I'm kidding. Thank you for saying that.
Thank you.
You guys' garlic bread walks. I like the little dessert things.
Has there been any correspondence in favor or opposition? One more time. Do we?
Yes, there was, there was correspondence that was received
Okay.
and provided to the Planning Commission.
Is there anyone who would like to speak in favor or opposition of the application?
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I just want to say, first off, I'm a homeowner on the wall directly behind Frantone's, and I never received a letter. And I wanted to go on record as saying this would be an absolute disaster for us. This was my wife and I. We saved a lot of money to move into the great city of Downey. We looked up the schools. Unsworth is down the street from us. We walk our daughter there every morning, pick her up. And with all due respect, this gentleman was, sitting up here and lying. And we've all been to a Chick-fil-A. We've all been in the drive-thrus for 20, 30 minutes. And and with all due respect, the plan should be reversed, where the drive-throughs on Telegraph, to have a 3-lane drive-through literally 50 feet from our bedroom window, breathing in the exhaust of 500 cars all day long, which leads to cancer, would be an absolute disaster for us. This is my 6-year-old daughter here. She goes to Unsworth down the street. Another thing I don't understand, this gentleman was talking about, they've been nice and provided extra parking and extra drive-through areas. That's even more of a disaster. How is that good news that we have more car exhaust and more congestion? The third thing is, to have the drive-through exit on Serapis is a complete disaster because, as you know, Unsworth Elementary is within a 1/10 of a mile down the road from where the Chick-fil-A location would be. There's already been a kid that was hit walking across the street going to Chris's. I don't know if the traffic engineer was aware of that. Chris's, as we know, gets about 10 cars per hour. To go from that to about 100 cars an hour would be a total disaster. Also, when pickup for kids, when the school lets out at 2:30, 1:45 on Fridays, the line of cars goes out all the way to Telegraph. It goes from Cedar Tree all the way to Telegraph. And my wife and I will have trouble pulling out of our condo complex. It's so bad. To add hundreds of cars now going through the drive-through, exiting on Serapis would be a total disaster. I wouldn't be so opposed if entering and exiting was confined to Telegraph. Telegraph's a busy street, but to have exiting on Serapis, which is residential, you got the apartments there of hundreds of people living in those apartments. You got the condos, you got the houses, you got the school with with thousands of kids. It's complete ridiculousness. And I would also like independence from him. I mean, this gentleman's commenting on how well he loves Chick-fil-A.
Thank you.
I would like some independent from the group. Thank you.
So it sounds like our homework on this item, for the record, 220052, has some discrepancies as to its location, 1, parking, 2, and the process, the way this individual Chick-fil-A will operate. But it's not the filet people's fault. All they're doing is leasing or purchasing a property that they plan to generate monies for the city. Dum-dums up there, the 4 of you, decide how that money will create tax money so that the big fat mayor here can stuff her face with McDonald's Happy Meals and say she's doing a great job in Downey creating a livable place, a breathable place. In actuality, it's not working that way. A proper zone would have gave you conditions to cut the wall, cut the sidewalk, and reverse the project so that Chick-fil-A would have easy flow of access so that no one will complain about the goddamn fucking project. Instead, I'm here in support of Chick-fil-A, but yet I'm here in support of the residents. They have every right to complain about their $1 million home going to waste now because 4 individuals up there, 1 attorney, 1 guy that likes Chick-fil-A, a lady that doesn't want to speak about what she read and try to read about this site access, and then Mr. Guerra, former mayor, idiot, don't know shit. Because if he did, I wouldn't have to call you guys idiots.
Topic.
Yes, on topic regarding not just the zoning buffer, but how to implement the 2010 ADA standard so that you follow the code of that 2010 standard and not go by your old rules of zoning. Fuck your old rules of zoning in Downey. For 40 years, you denied the public ADA access to have a safe, pedestrian-friendly, and without injury or bodily harm to walk up and down a sidewalk. For 40 years. And a schmuck like me comes in here and gets the Federal Highway Administration to fuck you for $22 million and build ramps, curbs, and sidewalks, all because a white nigger like me made it heard regarding site access. I'm talking about access. I'm talking about the 1 to 100 square feet of parking, fool. And I'm talking about where's the carpool van parking for ADA. It's not in your illustration. Otherwise, I'm fucking stupid. But you're stupid because on page 112, the Serapis Avenue driveway will show you the full access of this problem. Now, here's my comments in writing for the record, sir. Thank you, Mr. Guerra.
Hi, good evening. I actually do welcome Chick-fil-A, but I do have concerns as someone in the community and that lives close by. I'm also here representing a lot of parents from Unsworth. I didn't have a babysitter, they didn't, but I am here trying to voice for them too. And we are concerned about parking when school gets out. It's not just at 2:30. We do have the early release days. And then we have summer school, and during summer school, that does get out about 12:30, so that will be a conflict with the traffic. And if you live there and you see the apartment people park at Chris's, and so that's gonna add another like 15 cars to our street. So we're gonna have another parking issue, and that's already an issue with school drop-off and pickup. So I just have really big concerns about that, living near there. I also have concerns because Frantone's is only open from 10 o'clock to 10 o'clock, and Chick-fil-A, if I'm understanding correctly, is open from 6 to 12 midnight, and that's gonna be right underneath our window. And I understand we bought that house, we're near the commercial zone, but if you can just think of us and maybe how you could work with the noise, that would be wonderful. And sorry, I wasn't even planning to speak, but after seeing the plans, I am a little more concerned about this. But, you know, I do welcome Chick-fil-A. We have a lot of ruckus in that parking lot, and I hear it a lot. And I see lots of good things about this Chick-fil-A. We do fundraisers through Unworth through Chick-fil-A, but I really hope you did do the research with the traffic, because from me who lives there, I can barely pull out of my house as it is now. So I just can't imagine with a Chick-fil-A there, to be honest. I mean, it will increase the traffic significantly. Thank you for your time.
Mike Greenspan, the Jew who's not going back to Florida, you anti-Semitic, anti-Christ Catholics. Oh, speaking of anti-Semitism, a good old Christian operation like Chick-fil-A kind of reminds me of a New Yorker once, black guy from New York commenting about the Rockettes. He said, they don't have one single black Rockette. Well, Chick-fil-A probably doesn't hire any Jews. That's just the kind of operation they are. That's how they operate. Very discriminatory. Their food's good. Well, of course, they don't open on Sunday. So if they go to a mall, they get an exception that if any of us wanted to go to a mall, we wouldn't get that closed on Sunday or any other day. We'd have to be open their hours and their time. They get special privileges because of who they are. Now, I don't know if you guys are going to have any handicap access parking spaces on this lot. And Mr. Guerra, who happened to be mayor when the one opened on Firestone, I guess hasn't been there. I guess he's too busy going to Chris's Burgers and Frantone's and other places to stuff his face. And when I go there, the place is open till 12. It is crowded. And when you try to park in a parking space, if there's a long drive-through line, it blocks your space. And then it takes a long time for the drive-through line to exit because it's just horribly laid out. And I guess that would stand to reason that Guerra would have been mayor at the time that something like that would have happened. He's great at fucking up things and stuffing his fat face.
Topic.
Yes, well, he talked about all the places he goes to eat. So I'm
Topic.
It is on topic with Guerra. He's so fat.
Topic.
And let me tell you, he spins things, but obviously he didn't hang around to see what a fuck up it is over at Firestone. And the PB, the parking buffer zoning. Why, that's been legislated out 15 years ago. It must be idiots on the council or mayors like Guerra who
Can we go on topic?
did not do anything about the PB zoning. If you outlaw the PB zoning, the parking buffer, you should have changed the zoning, maybe to a couple, 2 or 3 different types of smorgasbord type zoning to replace the PB. I've had a big problem with the idea of you've outlawed the zoning, but it's still around. You need to change the zoning, not just Chick-fil-A, not just other places, but all over Downey. The PB zoning is obsolete. It needs some kind of rezoning, whatever. And I've been to other Chick-fil-A's, Chatsworth. Guess what? You park, and then the line gets along the drive-through, and it blocks the traffic inside. and nobody's even fucking looking at it.
Only once.
Do I give information to make part of the record? Sorry. Do I get this to make part of the record? My name's Andrew Passment, resident on Arrington Avenue for past 45 years. I have some concerns and questions given the time limit here. I'm going to have to jump around my outline here that I put together. But I want to say that we're not opposed to the project. I just want to make sure that it's done right, that it's, as I read before, it says you plan for things now or you pay for it later, and we just don't want the residents having to deal with the fallout and having to address these issues in the future. I know Chick-fil-A is a good company. I'm quite sorry to see the Tesseros leave and close the restaurant, as well as Chris Burgers. I wish there was a way to keep them in town. They've been very good to the community. Let me jump to the traffic study issues. You know, the traffic studies are just a snapshot in time, and there's a lot of flaws and issues that aren't very clear in those when you start to drill down on some of the neighborhood issues that affect us in and out every day. And one of the things on these traffic studies is they don't include crash data. They don't include safety issues in the report. And I wish I could go through this with you a little more clearly, but let me jump down to Arrington Avenue. Arrington Avenue is a cul-de-sac street. It backs up, when we have traffic, it backs up from Serapis all the way to our street. When you're trying to exit, you have vehicles that are parked along Telegraph Road in the third lane, so you have visibility problems that you can't exit when you are trying to merge into traffic. There's only one way out of this street, and that's onto Telegraph Road. So our left turn views as you're exiting right now are completely obstructed, and you have to take your chances shooting into the second lane. We also share ingress and egress with commercial establishments that are located on Telegraph because their driveways on both sides dump into Arrington and go into Telegraph Road as well. So it's not just a residential issue, it's also a commercial business issue. Eastbound Telegraph at Arrington intersection, there's been a number of traffic collisions that are not addressed in your staff report ever since the medians have been constructed. You've used to have at least one a month as a result of the different movements that are occurring at that intersection. And all these things are going to be exacerbated if you don't plan this project correctly.
It was hit across the house.
Thank you.
Also, westbound Telegraph Road, you have a turn pocket on southbound Arrington that only accommodates 2 or 3 vehicles. And you can have the same problem at the Serapis at Telegraph turn pocket. If they can't accommodate the queuing of vehicles going in to patronize the Chick-fil-A, they're going to impede into the thorough lane of traffic on the second lane, and you're going to have this congestion created throughout.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Ralph. I live on Arrington Avenue, and I want to thank the Frantones family. That's not their actual last name, but they're here, Johnny and Anthony. They've done a lot for the community and paid a lot of Downey's bills. They have the right to retire. You can only watch pizzas go around for so long before you get dizzy. Okay, but okay, the back to, we need a traffic signal. That's what Andy was he didn't have enough time to address that. Arrington and Telegraph will need a traffic signal should Chick-fil-A go in. And the good news is we'll let Chick-fil-A pay for it. Okay, City of Downey should not be paying for this. And I believe I'm psychic. I think you're going to approve the Chick-fil-A. That's fine. Okay, but I see that we're going to need a traffic signal. There's no way around that. And again, saying, I see the trendy thing to do here is to cuss at your meetings. I won't do that, but I'll comically say, let's let these Chick-fil-A mother cluckers spend some of their mother bucks for a traffic signal, okay, at Arrington and Telegraph. The extreme extra traffic will call for a signal at Arrington and Telegraph just down the road from Unsworth Elementary School. That's another reason we'll need a traffic signal at Arrington. That will help some with the traffic, which is going to be on Serapis, just down the street from Unsworth. It's going to be a lot of traffic there. So this signal will help quite a bit. Also, the people on Serapis, 8901 Serapis at the townhomes, you could think of squeezing Chick-fil-A for a bit of a sound wall to absorb some of the noise that they're complaining about. Some of them indicated they didn't even want the place to go in, but I believe you're going to vote it in, so consider putting a sound wall for them. Okay, thank you very much. I yield my time to Andy, my 40 seconds.
Am I allowed to do that?
No, sorry.
Hello, my name's Gloria Pasmont. I live on Arrington Avenue. One of the concerns I had is, as mentioned earlier, on Serapis, the school on Serapis, Unsworth. My 3 younger children attended there, and my granddaughter attends there. My main concern is the traffic flow when school lets out or in the morning, because some of the kids, it's staggered time. A lot of the parents that I've spoken to of the younger generation have the same concern. The parking of the apartment complex that currently is on Serapis, and then it turns to where Unsworth is. In the evenings, you see tons of cars from the apartment complex that park where the current Frantone's parking lot is in the evening. And in the morning, my main concern is, again, the kids coming and going from school after school. On Telegraph Road, there's, before Arrington, there's a cosmetology school, and they park the cars all the way from Pepe's all the way to the corner where currently Chris Burgers is. And so there's blind spots. I see the kids walking home from school, and I'm really concerned about that. Is one of the neighbors mentioned earlier about a child getting hit. And then across the street from Arrington is a Mexican market, Northgate. And what happens initially when they built the islands on our Telegraph Road, they knocked down one of the signs that leads onto Telegraph, no left turns. So the sign is gone. People go illegally, and then they make U-turns, and it's caused so many car accidents. And again, I just hope that maybe the Public Works could look into that for the sign to go back up. But again, we have nothing against Chick-fil-A. I just hope that this situation could be resolved as to the signaling off of Serapis to Telegraph. Thank you.
Boy, life is more complex than it seems sometimes, huh? Well, Chick-fil-A, I don't know. I haven't, like many people say, I have nothing against them. I like the idea that they'll take cash, American currency. It's our sovereign currency. I wish if they do get this approved that they will always oppose a digital ID a global digital ID and a global digital currency and respect our sovereignty as an American. I want to say some things about Anthony and John, the Frantones establishment. There's been a lot of times I've gone into Frantones with the kids, their teams, relatives, friends from out of town, banquet, groups we have had in there. It's going to be a sad day when they're gone. And everybody's going to miss them. They've done a lot for this city, above and beyond anything that you could imagine. And they've been supportive of every step of the way. And it's always nice to go in on Friday nights and order a pizza and go, even when it's cold on these nights, and get that double pepperoni pizza, man. It sure is nice and warm and hot, and you take it home and everybody's happy. But it's time, I guess, if they've approved of Chick-fil-A and they've kind of given the okay, we're just going to have to accept it. I mean, I've lived here 41 years, and they are an icon of Downey. Chris's is not bad. I don't go there as much. I know Gav, the son. He is friends with my sons. And I did like their breakfast burritos, light on the potatoes, by the way, But we're going to miss all those things. We're going to miss the half orders of spaghetti and meatballs at Frantone's. We're going to miss the half orders of beef raviolis and meat sauce. But I guess it's time for them to move on. We all get a little tired at times, and they deserve everything that they're going to get positively. But anyway, maybe this thing isn't thought through enough. Maybe you can go back to the drawing board and work on it a little more. Maybe rotate the situation around. There are some genuine concerns from the residents. Life is kind of gray sometimes, maybe more than we need to think of it as, but maybe we just need to work at it a little bit more, and maybe it can be done. Thank you.
Okay, so Commissioner Uva is hoping that, the traffic won't be too bad. But then Commissioner Ortiz is saying, well, realistically, they're saying it's not going to be that bad. Realistically, they're always lying. Corporations lie, especially big ones like this one. So I'm glad that some residents that are directly impacted by this decided to come on over here and put it on record that, yeah, we all have fond memories of Frantones, decades. And they have helped the community in many ways to build good memories. The memories are really what it's all about. So it's kind of sad that they've chosen to do this to that community. At the last council meeting, Mr. Councilmember Sosa said, how about we look into a community garden? Well, yeah, that'd be nice. It would have been so nice for, instead of selling out to a big corporation like this, it would have been nice to have a community garden like in that space, like in that part of Downey that has been neglected for so long. We had a whole person who ran from District 1 against the mayor. Her name was Alexandria Contreras, and she talked a lot about this, about how the kids at Unsworth Elementary were facing neglect from the city, the school district, and they were facing all this pollution because the gentleman said about how, you're so proud to have these big drive-throughs. You're so proud to have like dirty air, huh? Chick-fil-A wants dirty air because that's what we produce. Drive-thrus were a bad idea when they were created. They were kind of fun. It was like the fun thing to do, but they're really harmful to all of us. It would be great for them to, come on, people, just park and walk inside, and it's a nice time inside. Drive-thrus are bad for everybody. Even sitting in the drive-thrus, that's bad for your health. Sitting in general is not great. So, yeah, it's very sad that unfortunately it's a done deal because of all these things. Really, it would be great for this to be reconsidered. Let's turn it into a community garden. Let's green up that part of North Downey. That would be better for the community.
Does the applicant care for a rebuttal time?
Commissioners? Oh, Carlos, go ahead. I can go second.
Sure. We heard a lot of traffic concerns, and we do have our traffic engineer to answer any specific questions. Heard you loud and clear. There's a lot of traffic concerns, which is also why it's critical that we get the site plan right. It's critical for us to make sure that we have enough parking, that we have enough drive-through stacking on site so that we don't impact the right-of-way. So happy to help or happy to answer any questions through our team here.
Thank you. Do you want to ask a question? Any commissioners? You get, yeah.
So was there ever a discussion regarding coming out on Lakewood? On Telegraph instead of Serapis? Or is that a city thing? Was there discussion on that, sir?
Ingress on
Coming on Telegraph on there instead of coming out where the school kids go and so forth.
Yeah, we can speak through. I'm sorry, Grace here can speak through what was discussed with the engineering staff, but essentially, yeah, the more ingress and egress options we provide, the more optimal the circulation is. Within reason, of course, we have one on each frontage road, and you can't go too close to the corner with your driveway, which would also be a hazard, and also providing one only would also be a choke point. So again, you really do think through that, but again, happy to.
But realistically, nobody's going to go out on Telegraph when you're coming through the drive-through. They're going to go out right there on Serapis. They're not going to go all the way around back where people are coming in.
Unless you're going left.
But there's no light there, right? So you'd have a hard time going
Excuse
left
me,
on
yeah.
Telegraph.
Unless you're going left from Serapis, yes. So we would anticipate, again, Grace here can look through her data, but I would anticipate that most cars go right on from our drive-through exit onto Serapis.
Okay. And my other question is on the back wall of the proposed drive-through. I understand the gentleman, the concern there. I'm looking at the overview plan, and there's a swimming pool back there, even on the Google plan, the way it is right now. Okay, so the plans do call for one retaining wall to come out and another one to go in. But if you're in the drive-through queue, and I'm looking at page 39, okay? If you're in the drive-through queue on the one furthest to the retaining wall, how far are the houses to that? If you're sitting in a car, where's my backyard if I'm one of those 10?
I live there, it's about 25 feet.
Okay.
My garage is 25 feet from where it is proposed driveway.
Thank you.
Okay,
Sorry.
Can staff answer a little bit more detail on that? So, because there's ones on there, so that would be the concern too. Anyways, just because I like Chick-fil-A doesn't mean I'm going to vote with Chick-fil-A. I'd rather have Frantone's than Chick-fil-A. Okay, but that's not my call. So, but I'd rather get those things fixed now because I do see a concern there, right, on the back wall there. If you're in the queue, then your backyard is right next to it. I guess.
Commissioner, if I may add, as a consultant representing Chick-fil-A, yeah, that wall was definitely something we took into account. I will mention that the top of that wall, the grade from the top of that wall to the drive-through, the Chick-fil-A drive-through is about an 8 to 10 foot difference. So in terms of seeing the cars, hearing the cars, noise reduction, the landscaping that's going to go in between the walls there and the drive-through, there's a significant difference in grade that will help mitigate some of those concerns.
And I believe that grade is, so there's a, yes, that's correct. He was discussing on.
Appreciate. Thank you. We appreciate it. But right now, our questions are supposed to be from commissioners to the applicant. I apologize. But maybe after the meeting, you can speak to some of the staff members to discuss. Or any of the staff members after. But right now, our commissioners do have to just deliberate between commissioners and the applicant.
So what I heard from the gentleman on the Zoom is that there's 8 feet between the car to the wall, not the height of the wall, right? That there's 8 feet between the car.
They're 8 feet in height. Correct. There's 8 feet in height from the top of the wall to the grade difference. Yes, there's 8 to 10 feet.
Andrew, you need to clarify that it's 8 feet of block wall height on the southern property and not the eastern property line on the southern half of the eastern property line.
On the southern property, okay, all right.
Correct.
Okay. And when we have the traffic consultant and maybe with staff, so was there a discussion of a light there at that corner? I mean, because that seems to make a lot of common sense, and I was just kind of curious, was there a discussion on that?
Yeah, so this is Grace again with LLG Engineers. I'm not entirely clear what you are referring to as far as a light at the intersection. The intersection of Telegraph Road and Serapis is signalized.
Right. But I mean, it's currently signalized, right? But I mean, so that's been already coordinated and so forth. That's the point I was getting at.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And then if I could also add, just in reference to some of the discussion of access along Serapis, I think it would also be worth highlighting that the existing site along Serapis does have 4 driveways. There are 2 that serve the Chris Burgers site, and there are 2 that serve Frantone's. And this project is proposing to close 3 of those driveways and consolidate to have 1 single driveway along Serapis, which would serve to control traffic entering and exiting the site and minimize turning conflicts with other vehicles traveling along Serapis, as well as pedestrians and bicyclists on the sidewalk.
Thank you.
Commissioner Uva? Commissioner Duarte?
Yeah, just, my one comment, this is probably to the staff and the applicant. Kind of the concern that Mr. Guerra brought up, and I think some of the residents here. I know when the one on Imperial was built, the back wall, I actually was an advocate of making it and the findings 10 feet, but fortunately we didn't have any residents here at that hearing. And that wasn't part of the findings. So, I look at the back wall and the renderings, I see the landscape is nice, but I think there's some discrepancy here by one of the gentlemen saying it's a 6-foot wall right now. And I see some of the things in their findings that mitigate the noise in terms of the queuing, the deliveries deliveries there are set from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m., the lighting. I think the on-site person for the queuing actually reduces noise too, as opposed to actually the operation of the drive-through speaker. And that also speaker is under the mandated under our decibel code for the city, 65 dBAs. But in terms of the wall, I'd like to see us actually include a minimum of a 10-foot wall, just to mitigate noise on that southern border, because I don't see it on here. I know there's been some discrepancy in terms of how high that wall is or not. So, if that's something that the applicant would not be opposed to, if we, make that part of the finding, a minimum 10-foot wall, that's kind of what I would like, what I'd like to see in the findings here.
Does the applicant mind putting the 10-foot wall?
So I think
along the southern property line.
Yes.
So we can certainly explore that. I just want to be perfectly clear. There are two walls that I think were in maybe some confusion. There's a block wall along the eastern half portion along the residential half, and then the southern half. I'm sorry, along the southern property line, there is a block wall that's there now, and it sits higher than our actual site. So are you saying you want us to go 10 feet from the elevation of their drive-through lane all the way up? Because we did put in an actual retaining wall with vegetation for screening as well along, so vegetation along that block wall. So we do believe some of the efforts have already been made there, but I just want to clarify if the height difference you were looking for, is it from the grade of
the back wall, not from the distance of the drive-through, just the actual physical height, just with it, and I don't know how high the landscaping is going to be there also.
Sure, and I think, sorry to interrupt, I think the existing 8-foot block wall there is, we would not be able to touch that. That is on the southern
Correct.
property. So that is not within our control. We did put in a new retaining wall, again, to create a buffer there, which I don't know what that retaining wall is, Andrew, if you know, but it's probably 3 or so feet.
Yeah, it's very short. The intent of the retaining wall between the existing block wall and the drive-through lane that's proposed is to protect the footings of the existing block wall. The existing block wall right now on the side of the residential, the grades are significantly higher. So if you were standing on the residential, you could, if you were to peer over the wall, you would see the Frantones and the Chris's Burgers significantly lower. So that's why the top of the elevation difference between the top of the block wall and this proposed Chick-fil-A is a 10-foot difference, 8 to 10 feet. So the idea of having a 10-foot wall is already in play here, and we don't have permission to touch or work on that existing block wall.
Andrew's line, I live there.
Excuse me.
It's nothing to do with what he's saying.
Excuse me, just a quick reminder about the fact that this is a public hearing and we do need to be orderly, and this is the applicant's opportunity to address rebuttal. And so we will not be able to have folks commenting from the audience. So if you could please respect the due process of a public hearing and allow the applicant to continue with their presentation and asking of the questions, and allowing the commission to continue with their questions. This is a public hearing, and again, we would not.
The public should get a rebuttal.
Again, a public hearing. This is the applicant's opportunity. We can't have you commenting from the audience. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Please respect the process. Thank you. Go ahead.
Commissioner Duarte? I do have one question.
He concerned me in there because I'm not clear on what the answer was given to him. So is the wall 10 feet tall from the dirt? So I'm 6 feet, so if there's 4 more feet above me from where, if I stood next to the wall?
Sure.
Or not? I don't.
No, it's the elevations on each side are different. So if you were standing on the residential side, you would probably be close to the top of the wall. If you were standing on the other side where the Frantones building is, you would be the wall would look about 10 feet tall.
Hey, Andrew, if you're standing on our property at the drive-through lane, what is the height of the drive-through lane versus the top of the wall?
10 feet.
Okay.
So
because on this page 39 of the agenda packet, it says existing retaining wall to be removed on the one, and I see that because there's a car going to be right there, but existing retaining wall to remain on the outside one. So the one that's remaining, how tall is that?
That one, I don't know the exact height. That one is the one that's on our property.
Right.
And we're essentially moving that further south. That's the other block, the retaining wall I mentioned earlier. and that one's maybe, Andrew, 2 or 3 feet tall. So really, we're taking that down, pushing it southward, but we're leaving the existing one off-site.
Okay.
Which
So when this is built, and I guess we're going to have assurances on there that wall would be 10 feet tall. So we're confident of that, Madam Attorney and staff? I just want to make sure that
Does
that's.
staff ever?
If you're standing on in a drive aisle, the Andrew, yes, it will be a 10-foot height from that point.
Okay. So how about if I'm the backyard? That's
If you're
my
the backyard on the
house.
residential side,
Right.
the fence is 6 feet. There's a difference in grade. There's a difference in grade. That is, I guess that's the main point.
Okay, so that's where I was confused.
That's correct.
Okay, so if I'm a resident, I have a 6-foot high wall to cars. I could see.
You can look over and the vehicles would be at a lower grade than.
Well, that's not good. So, have you guys discussed that to mitigate some of the concerns from the staff? From the neighbors? 6 feet is not very tall. If I'm in my backyard and a 6-foot wall for thousands of cars going to go by me?
So we are more than happy to provide another block wall based on the city standard and code along the residential. Is that the single-family residential? Is that right, the concern?
Well, I'd be concerned for any neighbor.
Well,
back there.
you have 10 feet. I think what we're saying is we have 10 feet for the southern property, and then the 6 foot along the eastern property line is, I think, now where there's a little bit more clarity. And I think the 6 foot tall may be a city standard, and we're happy to put some type of block wall there.
So the elevation between my backyard that faces there and the Chick-fil-A drive-through is a 4-foot elevation difference? Is that what I'm hearing, or no? I mean.
Correct. Yes, that's correct. And I think that if there's a way to access, if there's any way for the commissioner to see the access Google Images or Google Maps to see the current view right now, you may see from August 2022, there's a truck parked on the residential side, and even the truck, you can't even see over the truck. The wall, as it goes westward, steps up. So 6 feet may be where it starts at the sliding gate, but you could get up to 8.5 feet on the residential side alone. So I think it's important to also see a visual of this wall and to see how high it really is, and to see that even if the garages or people were standing on the residential side, there would be virtually no way to see any of the cars, the headlights, or any of the things that would come from the Chick-fil-A in that drive lane.
Stop lying, Andrew, please.
Again, please refrain from speaking from the audience. It is disruptive. Thank you.
Andrew, if it's possible, you could share your screen showing that difference in grade on Google Maps.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes, let me see how to share screen.
That doesn't give us enough information. 4 feet
Can the commission see my screen?
Oh, there we go.
Yes.
So here's a great view, I think, of the side from the residential where there's a truck, and you can see at this elevation probably matches the top of the wall, but the wall steps up. So as you start at 6 feet, you go to 6, 7, 7.5, almost 7.7 feet at the top of the wall as you go down this drive aisle. On the north side of the wall, you'll see that there's an existing retaining wall, but it slopes down. So the elevation on the north side of the property is significantly lower. And what Chick-fil-A is proposing is to put their drive-through basically where the existing retaining wall is, but to protect the existing block wall, they are going to just shift this northern side closer to the block wall, provide landscaping in this area. So when you are actually in the Chick-fil-A, the northern side of the property, you will be significantly lower than the opposite south side grade, if that makes more sense.
Yeah, thank you. This makes a lot of sense now seeing it. You can see the cars coming out already with the kids. You see look at the families and the kids coming out already. Yeah. Does that wall go all the way to the end?
It does. It also meets up with a wall on the west property line. You can kind of see in the background.
Right. And that wall is going to stay there on the west side?
Yes. Yes, sir. That will stay there.
That will stay there. Okay.
Yes. So, yeah.
Okay. Oh, I see. Okay.
So I want to thank you for showing that. It
Yeah.
makes it, it clears up things a little bit. I guess the only question I have there is the proposed landscaping. Is there a minimum height for that? Because I think we could probably mitigate or alleviate a lot of the concerns if the landscaping was, maybe 8 to 10 feet.
We're happy to put in, sorry, permission to speak.
Yes.
We're happy to put in trees, any type of vegetation with height, as long as it's viable there and enough room, we'll go as big as we can.
Thank you.
Yeah, that would be.
Do we have
would
that
make a
too?
huge difference.
Can we, staff recommend putting that in the?
Yeah, just to piggyback
okay.
off what we just said, within our development standards for drive-through establishments, it reads that planters abutting residential properties shall be planted with trees, shrubs, which shall, from an uninterrupted screen foliage, not less than 10 feet, no more than 15 feet in height. So that landscaping will be a requirement once we do receive those, if and when we receive those plans. Staff will make sure that these requirements are met.
And the only question I had is going back to those 7 parking spots. Would you be opposed to removing those 7 spots because they will still meet the parking requirements that we're required to have? I just feel more comfortable knowing that we have just completely free space in the event that we do have more than just 44 cars. Would the applicant just be okay with just removing those 7 spots so it can be just one clear?
So, before we commit to removing any stalls, I just want to highlight that the more flexibility we can provide the operator to make the site as efficient as possible, the better. And that's one of the benefits of that, looks like a bit of a bulb out area at the entrance of the drive-through. That's all striping. That's not landscaping, and it's specifically for that reason. It's so that, again, when cars start to back up, that's not a landscaped raised curb. We can use that space, even those parking stalls, for our purposes. If that means stacking, if that means parking, I would prefer the flexibility to park there or not park there if that's what we need to do, is displace those stalls.
Okay. Thank you. The public hearing is now closed. Does the planning staff have a recommendation?
Yes, staff recommends approval of PLN 22-00052 for a site plan review and conditional use permit at 9180 and 9148 Telegraph Road.
This is a time for planning commission to deliberate. Does the commission have any questions at this time, or would the commission would like to discuss the item? Commissioner Uva?
Nothing for me.
Commissioner Guerra?
We have property owners' rights here, and as much as I don't want Johnny and Anthony to sell their property, they want to sell it, and they've chosen this operator. We don't get a choice of operators either, although this is a good company in many ways. We have 7 McDonald's in the city of Downey, and the only reason we have that is because Downey residents, keep going to McDonald's, and including my grandkids. So if something is zoned for something, we can't say we'd rather have an Arby's, a Chick-fil-A, or whatever. Obviously, McDonald's is not dumb. They wouldn't have put the 7th if we hadn't been supporting the first 6. So the fact that this is the 3rd Chick-fil-A, on there, more power to the residents that are supporting Chick-fil-A for whatever reason. Yes, I'd rather keep Frantone's there. I don't have that choice. I think the findings there are very clear on page 8. I think we're trying to mitigate the traffic concerns. I think that's very valid for the residents. I think that's going to be impactful. So whatever we can do as a plan commissioner, as a staff, I think the vegetation is clear. I think all those other issues we discussed, however we do that, that is going to impact that neighborhood. But looking at the finding there, it doesn't, it still fits into the needs and the requests on there, and I see the staff's recommendation. So however we can continue to mitigate, and I think that the Chick-fil-A is willing to work with us, but we have to be very strong in some of those concerns. And if I'm a resident there, I'm going to be very concerned about it. And I think the school is going to have an impact. But what's interesting is I wish we would have had those Google pictures that we just saw right now from the very beginning. We got this really, really big packet, and those weren't in there. And I wish we had, because that clarified that. Plus, you saw a lot of families walking from the school there, just in that Google picture from that. And that there is some valid comments made by the consultants there regarding 3 exits now down to 1. So I think that actually will be beneficial. So I'm gonna vote for this, and I'll make that recommendation based on the mitigations and the different things that we talked about to make sure that they do live up to it, and we'll go from there. So I'll make that motion, sir.
Commissioner Duarte?
Yeah, just my thoughts on this was, again, this is, sentimental value, Frantone's. I think all of us have it. That they've decided to sell. They're the owners. So, just kind of like what Mr. Guerra said, we can't dictate what business goes in there. The first day of economics class, supply and demand, if, people go there and there's the demand, that's why they pop up. And I know sometimes it's, I always hear the comments, I'll look at the forums, you hear, hey, 3 Chick-fil-A's, or in Downey, especially here, another Mexican restaurant. And, my thing is, well, if you don't go there, then, we get something else. So, in terms of that, that's something that's not within our realm here to dictate, what goes there or not. But, in terms of mitigating this for the residents there, and I'm really glad to see the residents here. Like I said, I think it helps us a lot in terms of, knowing there's issues there, in terms of trying to convey those issues to the applicants so we can work together. So, I see some of the findings. I see, I don't know if the public has reviewed them or not. There is a lot of findings here not findings, but conditions that would mitigate a lot of noise and a nuisance to the actual residents there. I guess the only one that I know it's part of our code, but I'd like to see it more concrete, was the vegetation, being the minimum 10 feet, and I know it can't exceed 15, just to put a little more buffer visually there. But it's a tough call. I've had a lot of great memories at Frantone's, but just from reading the packet, talking to the applicants, I do think they meet a lot of the findings here. And those are just my comments and thoughts.
Thank you. First, I just want to say thank you to the. Yeah. Thank. Appreciate. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate the item is now closed, and unfortunately we cannot. Thank you. My comments are the following. First and foremost, I want to thank the residents for coming. It is the residents that give us insight of how we vote. Unlike others that do join, it's you that give the true input. So I want to thank you all for coming here and giving how your vision for that area is. I hope the applicants and Chick-fil-A hear the concerns of our residents. there's a lot of concern for traffic, and I hope you hear their frustration and our concern. I love Chick-fil-A. I go often. And my heart goes to the Frontones, the owners. As a business owner, I understand how hard it is to move from one location to another or closing off a business. My family and I have closed some businesses, and it's hard. You have left a great impact for our community. And what I would say is that's why it's important to support local businesses so that we can continue thriving together. It is you who dramatically changed a lot of people's lives and my life. So I appreciate everything you have done. And those are my concluding comments. May I have a motion?
I apologize. I already made the motion, sir.
Motion. Do we have a second?
Could I just be, just for staff's benefit and our benefit, to clarify what the motion was? I know that a lot of different things were discussed about possible conditions. So Commissioner Guerra, if you may want to make your motion one more time and clarify what conditions you were seeking to be added.
The conditions that the ones that we had discussed regarding the some of the mitigation concerns regarding the vegetation and, seeing the block wall there, that kind of answered the thing. So I don't think there's anything new to do that. So I think it's just any other noise mitigation issues that could be done. I don't know how we state that in there, but that's a big concern.
Do we have staff to write?
Yeah. So I think that's my motion, is to make sure the vegetation dash noise mitigations, whatever the staff can work together with the applicant to do. So I don't know how to specifically, I know you're asking more specific.
I just want staff to be clear about what they are adding. So as long as staff is understanding what the direction is, I think that's fine. But I would defer to staff just to make sure that they understand what they're going to be adding.
As you mentioned earlier with landscaping, and realized there are specific standards with vegetation and tree height, which alleviated some of your concerns. With regards to noise, the city's noise ordinance specifies maximum allowable noise standards, and there's enforcement mechanism. Is there anything beyond what the requirements are in the city that the commission wants to add?
Yes.
That's
yes, I want more than the requirement.
We want
to keep it quiet and keep it visual for the residents and make less noise. So whatever that is, I understand the standards. If you guys can work together with the applicant to make sure that the standards are exceeded to the point that, are really helping the residents there.
I think, maybe
how do you want to clarify?
Yeah, maybe I'll flesh out a little more. In terms of the noise, in terms of the noise that you said, it's in the findings, 65 dB. I see that in there.
Yeah.
But what I don't see, and maybe staff can condition that, declare, a condition that that the minimum 10-foot height vegetation on the southern border is part of the conditions, because that's not in there right now, and I just don't want to leave that open. I think I would feel more comfortable if there was an actual added language as a condition for the vegetation. And I don't know if that's what you were
Commissioner,
thinking.
I don't know if there's one on the west side either. So that's a good point. I didn't go into that depth to see how much on the west side. So I don't know, but I know for a fact on the south side there isn't.
Yeah.
So maybe
So both.
We could add conditions that reflect the code to emphasize the importance and the significance of conditions related to noise and landscaping, which to emphasize the importance, if that would satisfy the Planning Commission.
Sorry, thank you. The public hearing is now closed. Thank you.
It's going to be car exhaust, 1,000 cars a day going through.
Sir, if you could please allow the commission to continue to deliberate, we would appreciate that. Go ahead, Commissioner.
I'm going to give one warning. I appreciate your comments. Appreciate it. If not, I'm just saying.
Sir, we're going to have to take a recess if you continue to be disruptive. So if you could please allow us to continue to deliberate. Chair, go ahead. I believe there was a motion that was being made and staff was clarifying the added conditions, but I wasn't sure if that condition was
Already there?
appropriate to what Commissioner Duarte had said. So maybe you want to discuss that. Was the condition that Mr. Bashmakian was suggesting, was that kind of in line with what you were looking for?
The condition along the southern border in terms of vegetation, just actually physically writing it down there. I know that you stated that, but if we can just actually have a added condition in terms of southern, I know, and Mr. Garrett brought up the point on the on the western wall. I didn't really think about it as much because I know that's not a residential. It's
Well, it is. It seems that one gentleman, that's his house more right there versus the back that we saw in the photos are the garage. Garages there from the condos. But on the other side, on the west wall, there's some houses. We can see in one of the pictures, there's a swimming pool right there.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah, then I think
and
we'd want to be
so-
consistent along the southern end.
Correct.
And eastern.
The southern
walls.
and the western side.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
and western, I'm sorry.
You're right. I think we
Can the
have-
staff draft a condition?
Yes, we can draft the conditions for the additional landscaping along the western and the southern property lines along the residential areas. And the fact that the applicant indicated that they're in agreement to work with staff and the community to add the proper landscaping to ensure that impacts are minimized. So we could work with the applicant and ensure those conditions are implemented.
So the motion would be with
You
the.
okay with that?
That's a motion, and was there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay.
We vote now.
I think we will now. No, I thought I voted.
Okay, thank you. The motion passes 4-0 to approve PLN 20-00052 for a site plan review and conditional use permit as amended.
Thank you. The action of the Planning Commission will be final unless the matter is appealed to the City Council with the appropriate fee within the next 15-day period as set forth in the city's municipal code. Now, this is the time set aside for public hearing, site plan review, and conditional use permit application for PLN-21-00147 and sensitive tract map PLN-22-00098. Does the Deputy City Clerk have proof of publication?
Yes, Chair, I do.
Will the interim city planner introduce staff making the presentation?
Yes, Assistant Planner Abraham Luna will make the presentation.
Commissioners, the last item before you be considering will be is site plan review, conditional use permit, and tentative parcel map for existing religious facility of a mosque. The applicant is Mohammed Ansari, and the address is 12428 Benedict Avenue. This is an area of the proposed project outlined in red, which is located just north of Imperial Highway. It is composed of 3 lots with addresses of 12428, 12436, 12440 Benedict Avenue. Current operations of the mosque are on the northern property and will consolidate the 2 properties to the south as part of this project. Here's a segment of the city zoning map. The property is found within the C2 general commercial. Properties to the east, south are also zone C2, but are developed with residential uses, varying from single-family homes to multifamily. The east is zoned, I apologize. The west is zoned R3 and are developed with multifamily residential, and properties to the north are zoned M1 with various light manufacturing businesses. Here is a existing street view of the building. The current mosque operates as an Islamic Center for Mid-Cities, which was approved with a conditional use permit in 2005 as a religious facility and a children's studies session. The existing lot size is approximately 9,000 square feet with an existing building of 1,600 square feet. The new proposed lot size is approximately 19,600 square feet with a new building size of 6,644 square feet. And this does include the addition on the first floor of 1,864 and the second floor addition of 3,052 square feet. The new conditional use permit will be to encompass the new square footages of the building and the services it provides. The services of the religious facility and classrooms for the children's study session will not conflict in times based on the table on the screen. These times are standard times for prayer of the religion. Prayer occurs 5 times a day and will slightly vary based on months. Children's studies are scheduled around these prayer times. The actual usable square footage for prayer room totals 1,702 square feet, which includes the prayer hall and the atrium. And if you look to your left screen, I can point that out for you. It's very tiny, but this is the prayer hall right here, and then the atrium as well. These 2 rooms do extend to the roof, so only the first floor of the mosque will be used for prayer. In addition, classrooms and children's study sessions will also be held in these same locations, along with a meeting room on the second floor. The rest of the second floor will be made up of office space, which totals 843 square feet. All of these areas mentioned is what was used to calculate the parking requirement for this address. The second part of this project is a site plan review, which is required because the applicant is proposing changes to the building's exterior and will significantly modify the existing site. On the screen, you can see a rendering showing the proposed design of the building, which includes smooth white stucco throughout, a second floor that overhangs into the parking area, and a minaret tower feature typically found in mosque buildings. Along with the building's exterior modification, the site will increase in size and have an increase in landscaping and provide sufficient parking spaces, all complying with the city's development standards. The last application for this project is a tentative parcel map, which will be used for the consolidation of the 2 adjacent properties that are developed with a legal non-conforming residential home. Again, the new size for this property will be close to 19,600 square feet. As part of our development review committee, no concerns were expressed and standard comments were provided for this building. This concludes staff presentation. I'm here for any questions.
Thank you for the presentation. Does the Planning Commission have any questions of staff? Commissioner Uva?
I do not have any.
Commissioner Elguera?
I just want to confirm that it was sent to all property owners within 500 feet. It's part of the report on here that there's one residence just attached to that, just to the south of that. So I just want to make sure that everybody was notified in the neighborhood about that expansion and so forth.
Correct. We did receive one sendback letter, meaning it did not get delivered. But those 2 residents that you speak of just south of the property are owned by the applicant.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, no, even one further, like there's one in the corner with a parking lot and then there's one other one. I understand the 2 that are being combined. I get those 2, but I mean, one further south, I'm looking at.
It is within 500 feet, yes.
Yeah. Okay. So they got notified and so forth.
Correct.
Okay. So, and then the parking, you're comfortable with the parking? I mean, that's a mixed area anyways, right? Little, light industrial and so forth. And the school's way at the other corner on there. So that might be an issue, I guess maybe pick up during time by there. But there's plenty of parking on this, what I saw, right?
Correct. There is one extra space provided. The required parking is 30 spaces. The applicant proposes 31. And among other facts, the applicant let me know the community also participates in that church, so this will benefit the immediate area.
Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. No further questions.
Commissioner Duarte?
No questions for me.
And I'm done. Thank you. Before I open the public hearing and call the applicant or his or her representative, this will be the time for the planning commissioners to disclose any pre-hearing site visits or pre-hearing discussions that the commissioners may have had about the project. Vice Chair Uva.
I did not have anything.
Commissioner Guerra.
I drove by the location. I don't have anything else. I did check it out.
Commissioner Duarte.
No disclosures for me.
And I have none. The public hearing is now open. Will the applicant or his or her representative please come forward and give testimony?
Good evening, Chair, Commissioners, and audience. My name is Abid Chaudhry. I'm a longtime resident of City of Downey since 1988. Before, there's plenty of people from our community in attendance. Would you please wave? They are here to support this project, and we are very grateful. We came here in 2005 for a conditional use permit. It was a commercial zone, as the staff stated. We turned into a the community center. Formerly, we built the mosque back in 2007, I believe, and that has been serving us, but we have a population increase while the use has not changed at all. What community grew, so we raised funds and we were able to acquire 2 properties, and we are proposing a remodeling. It's not a new construction. So we are adding more than 10,000 feet just for the parking space to make sure that people who are attending the mosque, they have plenty of spaces to park and not cause any issues in the neighborhood. And we just wanted to express our gratitude, what we have experienced before, and we are here to seek amendment to the conditional use permit, which was granted back in 2005. The only concern I have, I'd like to kind of note, there are more than 25 churches in the city of Downey. There are more than 2 big temples of Hinduism, and there are 2 at least Buddhism temples. Each size is much bigger than our mosque. There are only 2 mosques. And this particular one, if you have noted, just like in presentation, the depth of the lot is not much. Back in 2005, there was a requirement to give some property to lot to the city, part of the use of the permit. But this is mind-boggling. I'm a civil engineer by chance. I'm a retired City of LA employee. But I don't understand, this is my personal concern, I just want to understand what City of Downey intended to require a setback in air of 10 feet. We are not demolishing the building. It is an existing setback. What is the purpose and how does it serve the City of Downey to have a 10-foot setback in air above existing building? I think if that setback is removed, I think that building can be built possibly efficiently, and it could be a better use. It will provide a lot more convenience while we kind of meet all the requirement. So that's all I got to say. I appreciate that for your consideration and listening. Thank you. If you have any questions, we can answer that.
Well, Commissioner Uva, do you have any questions?
I don't have any questions.
Commissioner Guerra.
I'm just curious on there. What is he referring to? Can staff answer that air setback thing?
Perhaps we need some better clarification because there's a 15-foot setback.
If you look at the presentation, you see there's a 10-foot setback in the front. It was required of us, while it doesn't serve any purpose at all.
So the front setback is required of a minimum, I believe, of 15 feet. The existing building is 7 feet, so it is impeding into that required setback. So any new construction does have to comply with development standards, which is why it's not perfectly in line with what's existing, but the new is offset, so that is the reason.
I would like to remind the staff, I'm a civil servant myself, and I know that, and this is a remodel. The word is remodel, it's not a new construction. So there is a word called prevailing setback. So that's all I got to say. It's a prevailing setback. That doesn't make any sense, and I really care to know, respectfully like to understand, how does it serve the City of Downey well? because the existing building will not be demolished. It is a remodeling. I would
still
appreciate
don't
that it could be
understand.
reconsidered.
So the thing is, it's going out that way because why again?
If my understanding is, it's an existing building. The existing building is within the setback. It was constructed at a time when we may have had different setbacks. It's typical. But when you are adding something to an existing building, that addition has to conform with current standards, even though the existing building is further into a setback. This is a very typical situation. If a developer, property owner, desires to build something different from the code, there is a mechanism, or the variance application process. There are certain findings that need to be made, but the applicant, as far as I understand, has not requested a variance from the setback standard. So I think that's my understanding of what the applicant is discussing, unless if I'm missing something.
Well, if we're changing the CUP anyways, I mean, why? I guess they had to request it then. And they,
If somebody wants to, if the applicant wants to construct and build within required setback, it's not permitted. They can request a variance. It's a public hearing process, and there are findings that are required to be made. But that's not before you tonight.
right. Okay.
Commissioner, with due respect, it is my understanding that if you are doing a remodeling, the new setback is not applicable, prevailing setback governs. And I have seen plenty exercise during what is called residential construction. The street I live on, Belder Drive, I have seen even prevailing setback compromise, or what do you call it, exemption granted or variance granted. And I just mentioned to you a number of mosques we have, and this space being taken away doesn't serve no one, and it just doesn't make any sense. I think things should make some sense.
Does he care to table and continue moving forward with this application at a later time so you can do the variance? Or would you like us to consider your application as is? What is
Application is for conditional use amendment. There's no change in conditional use, so I would expect that it is permitted, the permission is granted today. The only thing is the application of new setbacks to a remodel project is not very common. It's never unheard of for me. And I think that should be reconsidered. That's all I'm saying. I would appreciate that it can approval be granted tonight.
Commissioner Duarte, do you have any questions?
I have no questions for the applicant.
And I have none. Thank you.
Thank you.
Has there been any correspondence in favor or opposition?
There's been no correspondence.
Is there anyone who would like to speak in favor or opposition of the application?
That's the new video because he's no longer on TV.
Now, before the Quran Church has spoken, they're simply asking to allow this unconditional construction to go forward without any penalties. So what's the difficulty here? Since we're going to just demolish 2C2 residential homes that are unneeded, unwanted, and the mosque acquires that extra land so they can populate people off the streets to park on their facility and not create the fuster of jabbering with your neighbors about parking issues. All he's asking is for your assistance in a conditional use permit as it's read out on page 3. Now, whether or not your engineers over here or your planning engineers over here are conforming to the idea, and answer that right, Miss Attorney, are they altering to make this an expansion, or are they simply doing it to improve the facade of the facility? Because simply said, you know, a decorative architectural work is not demolishing the structure. It's simply providing a facial look. And if you look at the rendering on page 5 of their permit process, I don't see anything bad about it, except that maybe some of you are racist, prejudiced, and don't like the Quran belief. So I'm here in support of the mosque. I'm here in support. Yes, come on. Yes. We are here in support because we want to educate not just the Quran, but educate all those in the community. And we can't do this without your support for classrooms, rooms for prayer and service, additional parking. That's what I was first discussing about. Because it seems like this remodeling issue becomes something out of the context of what they don't believe, or maybe you don't believe. But God will punish you, Miss Attorney, if you don't correct me, because you should fear God. There is Allah. There is one God above you, you, and you, and the three of you. Because God listens to prayers, and this should be addressed, and we should give them the right under 12428 Benedict Avenue. Thank you.
Thank you for keeping it clean.
All right, time, please.
Mike Greenspan, the Jew who's not going back to Florida, you anti-Semitic, anti-Christ Catholics. That was not a Muslim that made that statement to me. It was a big, fat, slob, anti-Christ Catholic in beautiful downtown Burbank who goes to the biggest anti-Semitic, anti-Christ Catholic church in the town, St. Finbar, just to have the record straight. I've not had confrontations with the Muslims. No, just a bunch of bigoted Christians and a bunch of anti-Semitic, anti-Christ Catholics who want to shove their false doctrines down my throat, down to the fish on Friday in the school cafeteria. I wasn't told in second grade, Muslims will go to hell if they eat meat on Friday. No, I was told the lie about Catholics. Muslims don't go shoving their stuff down my throat. They don't go shoving false doctrines. And for our interim city attorney over there, the term should be they're grandfathered in. They built the 2005 mosque under those rules. You're changing the rules in the middle of the game because they're Muslims. That's all. You're just making it harder for them because you got chaplains like Guerra on the planning board that just don't like people that are not like him. That's what it's about. I've umpired Christian leagues, and boy, they are some of the worst behaved people on the planet, including the super preacher, Dudley Rutherford. Yes. Oh, and his son was part of a theft ring. Do we have any Muslim mosque theft rings around from Best Buy like Shepherd of the Hills had over there at Porter Ranch? I don't think so. Muslims don't cheat in Christian leagues. Christians cheat in Christian leagues with Jewish players from city leagues. And what happens when you catch them cheating in a Christian league? Why, they jerk their dicks and blame the umpire, of course. Yes, the Muslims mind their business. They're not the way Newt Gingrich has described them. Newt Gingrich, who can't seem to keep his big old fat foreskin Christian Peter in his pants where it belongs, but it goes into every woman but his wife. And he was talking about Sharia law during the 2012 presidential campaign.
Topic.
We're not promoting Sharia law in this country. We are of English common law. We are derived.
What is the topic?
And let me tell you, it'd be fun to watch Gingrich get flogged.
What's the topic?
For his adultery, because that's what they do with people like Gingrich and other cheating Christians.
Topic?
Yes, I'm on topic. Fuck you.
Whoa. Okay. I'm not a Jew physically, spiritually, yes. Jesus was a Jew. He died and was buried and resurrected. And I'm telling you, Jesus ain't going back there ever again. He'll never die again, no matter what anybody says. However, these folks are just looking for an expansion of their mosque. I'm not a follower of Islam. I don't know any Muslims, but I do want some assurance, being an American, that they can understand and convey to all Americans the Civil Rights Act of 1964 about race, national origin, and religion, and our right of the First Amendment to assemble in a religious format, not just our speech. Some people may think our speech is crude, vulgar at times, but what's treasure to one man may be trash to another. But we do have a right to be offended in this country. But that doesn't mean you whine and cry about it. You just move on. They have a right to say certain things. But I want to talk about the lockdowns of the houses of worship. Is this mosque going to be subject to the COVID-19 lockdowns, the illegal lockdowns that should have never happened? You did that to the churches, the Christian churches. You fined pastors in this city. You went along with it during the lockdowns because they continued to assemble, which is a First Amendment right. They should not be subject to anything like that in this country or in this state or in this city. You required to pass the permits for Circus Vargas as long as they complied with the COVID lockdowns. And people couldn't go to any facilities or restaurants unless they had a vaccine passport or a mask. You even limited people to 10 people at a gathering. You had no authority to do that. That Barbara Farrar, the LA County medical advisor, is a fake doctor, by the way. She's still lying today about COVID-19, the synthetic man-made virus that they threw upon the rest of the world out here. But it only had a 99.98% survival rate. They misled you about that so they could impose all these draconian measures against people and people to worship in their places of worship. I think you should approve this and leave the religious people alone. Thank you very much.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, everybody. How you guys doing today? We're really happy to present this project over here. It's been a lot of help. It has changed a lot of people's lives, especially the young generation, to a much more positive attitude and going forward with their lives. This mosque has been there for quite a while. It has improved the neighborhood. It has improved a lot of lives. And a lot of our kids in here, second generation or third generation in here. And I don't know about foreigners or non-foreigners, but we love the city of Downey. We love being here. And we appreciate what you guys do. And if the architect has decided for the change of the building, it's going to put a lot of burden as far as financial on the mosque. We'd rather do the investment into improving the property than doing a facade look for the building. We would really appreciate if you guys work with us more often. Thank you so much.
So I am completely in favor of this. I think it's really unacceptable that you're putting up so many barriers. This is, Mr. Garrett talked earlier about, property rights. This is their property. There's religious rights under the Constitution. You should honor them. And that really makes me think about, why is it that, now that, we're acknowledging religious diversity, why is it that, more religious communities are not invited here more often? Why is it that the mayor always, she even said at some point, this is a Christian nation. And what? There's nothing in the Constitution declaring, an establishment of religion. So we need our city to actually protect religious rights, religious liberties. And one thing that's really disturbing to me, and maybe now you can use this as maybe finally you'll turn around. So at the council meetings, why is there always only a Christian pastor giving the invocation? Why don't you have, say, someone from this community?
Go back to the topic.
This is the topic. This is the topic that the staff is putting up barriers to this. Permit because they claim that you gotta combine with it, but you should just accept it. You should just move forward with allowing for people to have the right to show their house of worship should be respected, and that's why you have to invite the entire community here. And I really hope that. That maybe we can have someone from the Muslim faith on the council and the planning commission at some point, because we need actual diversity up in there. Thank you.
Good evening, respected members of Planning Commission. My name is Ahmed Ayub, and I am one of the community members of this mosque. My family and I have been living in Downey since 2004, and I went to elementary, middle school, and Downey High School here as well. Since the establishment of this Downey Mosque, which took place in 2007, many community members have moved to Downey for the sake of being close to this mosque. It has been 16 years since we have received the permit, and now due to the continuous growth in our community, we are requesting for expansion. As a law-abiding center, we have never violated the condition on the permit. The reason why many community members have already moved to Downey and more are actively looking to move here is because we visit this mosque on a daily basis to perform our prayers. On Fridays, we have over 150 people for our afternoon prayers. And to accommodate for that space, we break our prayers down into two so everyone can gather comfortably. The mosque purchased 2 houses 4 years back, and just last month, we purchased a 3rd house. All of these houses are next to the mosque, so our community members are able to park there easily. Many members who live in Downey, including myself and my family, walk to the mosque so we can save parking space for others. In conclusion, we are requesting a permit for the expansion of this mosque, as we need more space to accommodate our growing congregation and to provide additional facilities and services to the community. We believe that this expansion is not just about building a larger mosque, but about investing in the future of our community. Therefore, we are confident that this project will bring many benefits to our community and the broader community as a whole. Thank you very much for listening to me, for allowing our community members to participate in today's hearing, and for allowing our mosque to have such a beautiful place in the great city of Downey. Before I walk away, I just want to acknowledge that we have over 50 members from our mosque here present. Instead of inviting them over here and individually speaking, because I know we all want to go home, probably have frontons tonight, let's just raise our hand up for the support of this mosque. Thank you very much.
Seeing that there was nobody opposed to the applicant, the public hearing is now closed. Does the planning staff have a recommendation?
Staff recommends the Planning Commission approve PLN 21-00147 and PLN 22-00098 and adopt the attached resolution.
Thank you. It is now time for the planning commissioners to deliberate. Does the commission have any questions at this time, or would the commission like to discuss the item? Commissioner Uva.
No questions. I just want to commend all of you for coming out tonight. We're third on the agenda, and it's what, 9? Yeah, almost 9:30, and you sat here and listened to everything previous, and I appreciate that. Your comments are very well received, and I wish you nothing but the best of luck.
Commissioner Guerra.
I thought the same thing. I felt bad for you that you were third on there. So you should have brought some Chick-fil-A with you. Then we'd have been, we're all hungry and tired. I know. Oh, there you go. Anyways, well, congratulations, and thank you for investing in Downey, and thank you for being here. I'm kind of ashamed that I didn't know that you were there since 2007. And anyway, so thank you for doing this. I think it's a beautiful project. I'd be in favor in the future if you guys would look at the variants if it made it better, because you keep expanding, and that's a good thing. Obviously, you have enough community members growing. So congratulations, and thank you for being here in Downey.
Commissioner Duarte.
Yeah, just kind of want to echo those thoughts. Congratulations to you. The building looks beautiful, so I'm definitely in favor of the project, and congratulations once again.
So after today, I invite you all to Frontones on my behalf. No, I'm just kidding. No, thank you everybody for coming today. I know it's been a long night. It is because residents and people like you that make our community great. So thank you so much. May I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we adopt that, well, I don't want to read the numbers, but I changed the conditional use permit. I'll make that motion.
Second.
We have may we vote?
Okay, the motion passes 4-0 to approve PLN 21-00147 for a site plan review and conditional use permit, and tentative track PLN 22-00098 for a tentative tract map.
No, I'm good. Let's just plow through it. Yeah, I'll go to the bathroom after that.
Thank you. The action of the Planning Commission will be final unless the matter is appealed to the City Council with appropriate fee within the next 15-day period as set forth in the city's municipal code. Moving forward to non-agenda public comment, this portion
You
of
guys
the.
can all go home, yeah.
Thank you.
Unless you want to stay.
Or stay.
Or you guys can stay with us.
Yeah. You guys can hear all the cussing we're going to hear. So.
Thank you. Moving forward, should we just wait?
I mean, if you guys want to, I'll just give it.
We'll just wait a little bit.
You know what I don't like, and you can talk about that. I don't like when they just say a resident. Just put your name on it.
We're going to take a quick recess.
What are you scared of?
Linda?
You know? I mean, you weren't threatening our lives. I mean, you were.
Jacket's sharp.
I like the jacket.
Yeah.
You didn't get one?
Oh, man.
Good Catholic girl. And,
Yeah,
and
she is,
stuff like
yeah.
that. So, yeah, no,
She also did.
but she called me. She goes, hey, I saw your name. I'm like, my buddy.
All right, so we resume.
Yeah, I deal a lot with Deanna.
So we,
Deanna Kerr.
Yeah.
She's in charge of the key contacts.
Right.
And she's a really neat lady
Oh, good,
too.
good. They're very influential up there.
Yeah, they are.
And Liza has the strings. She is the head of the big relations for the pack.
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah, she is.
Moving forward, non-agenda public comment. This portion of the agenda provides an opportunity for the public to address the planning commission on non-agenda, consent, and other business items within the jurisdiction of the planning commission not listed on the agenda. It is requested but not required that you state your name, address, and subject matter upon which you wish to speak. Please limit your comments for non-agenda items for no more than 4 minutes. Pursuant to the Brown Act, no discussion or action other than brief response, referral to the city planning staff, or schedule for a subsequent agenda shall be taken by the planning commission on any issue brought forth under the section.
Mike Greenspan, and the words of Pauly Shore, I'm back and not going back to Florida. I don't care how many of you guys with your Inquisition mentality from Spain want me to go back to Florida. No. After all, you guys managed to fuck up things with the indigenous peoples of Florida. We used to call them Indians. The official play of Florida is cross and sword. If you didn't get the cross from the Spanish Catholic Church, you got the sword. And that fort in St. Augustine housed a lot of indigenous people, i.e. Indians, that wouldn't get civilized according to their false Catholic doctrines. That's what it's all about, folks. You've got the right to have my opinion. Just like when I'm here talking about an issue and someone's saying topic, well, all the other things, all the tangential things apply. It's not just one thing. I mean, look at the railroad job. Choo, choo, Chick-fil-A did. Man, they're great spinners. You would probably want to hire those people for your PR firm if you had a PR firm. If you needed a PR person to hire, just hire the firm that Chick-fil-A has. Boy, do they manage to do a good spin job. Wait till all that traffic is backed up and you can't get out because the drive-through lane's backing up the parking section. I've been to places like that. It's no fun. And the COVID thing, Bruce talked about the COVID, that didn't help it any. And not just Chick-fil-A, other places too, Wendy's, you name it. Oh, and the thing, Wendy's and And McDonald's and others do that mobile thing. As I guess, these devices be made, they have to be sold. They're not just going to be there gathering dust. Somebody has to buy them, even if they have no use, but they actually have use. Years ago, a controversial bridge, an opponent got up there and spoke against it. And he got a call from somebody with Capital Concrete. And the guy with Capital Concrete says, hey, I need that bridge to sell concrete. It wasn't a bridge to relieve traffic. It was a bridge for Capital Concrete to sell concrete. That's what things are about. What's the old saying? You've all heard it. Money talks and bullshit walks. And obviously, the Chick-fil-A people have lots of money. Obviously, all the other things that get done in Downey, they have lots of money. Why, I know that Mario guy, Trujillo, lives in this dream world. He wants to see a Trader Joe's in Downey. Oh boy, dream on. Please pass the LSD so I can see what he's seeing, because I don't see it. Have you guys done any planning commission topics on having a Trader Joe's? You know where they're showing up? In Dallas, where all these Californians have moved out to Texas. They wanted Trader Joe's, they want In-N-Out, and they're getting them. But you're not going to get one in Downey. I should have pulled out that Confederate flag again, because if you think a Trader Joe's is coming to this town, you're whistling Dixie. It's just not going to happen. It's not going to be built on Mario's property. I'm sure he would want his property to be sold for something like that. Maybe you can get RIC KKK Caruso to come in this town and develop it, because he's great. He comes to a community and sucks the money out of the community to go in his pocket, and he claims he's being beneficial. That great big giant sucking sound that Ross Perot talked about, it's not Mario sucking a dick, it's Caruso who would be sucking the money out of Downey.
Okay, so 4 minutes. I find that impressive. Maybe I won't take the full 4 minutes because I'm kind of tired, since the council meeting was such a disaster. Because of course the mayor, my goodness, what is up with Downey's mayor? Like, why is she just so anti-poor? Like, I mean, I'm not asking for people to be like radically like, oh, giving away everything, like, okay, no, maybe I don't want to do that, but she is radically like opposed to the poor. It's like a constant. It's crazy, actually. Like, she goes after the most vulnerable people. She even did that, yes, with Miss Alvarez. And Miss Alvarez, said, the mayor said, it's America, you gotta speak English. And then she publicly said, it's America, we're a Christian nation. Like, what is wrong with the mayor? The mayor is, and then the city attorney has to school her sometimes. Like, no, don't do that. Don't do that. It's just, come on. The mayor needs to be replaced by, I would say, maybe Mr. Sosa. Mr. Sosa seems like a pretty reasonable person. He seems willing to listen. He seems willing to entertain different thoughts. I like Mr. Sosa. As far as anyone can tell, he's not completely corrupt like the mayor and the mayor pro tem, who are totally corrupt. Mr. Horn also doesn't seem very corrupt. And I guess we're going to have an election. So that's going to be interesting. Yeah, like I said, maybe I wouldn't take the 4 minutes because I'm kind of drifting. But, I think that this whole thing today was really interesting. I mean, Chick-fil-A, I had Chick-fil-A for lunch, actually. And so I get it. People like Chick-fil-A. But it's just too much. It's too much. Like, I mean, if you look at the map, and I know you care about the image of Downey. Okay, so go on the map and type in Chick-fil-A, and you'll see that Downey's now like the local city with the most Chick-fil-A's. That's not good. Just if they come again with the fourth Chick-fil-A, just say no. It's okay to say no to Chick-fil-A and to all the other ones. It is okay. It is okay. You can even pass a resolution. You can say, oh, maybe it'll be, maybe that's just what the residents want. Okay, yeah, that could be true. But you could still like say, residents, how about let's eat something healthier. Let's go eat at the guacamaya place. That's healthier. Or, any of the other places. We don't want to just have this fast food. It's bad for us. The council, the planning commission could just say that. You don't have to mandate it, obviously, and you shouldn't. But you can say, hey, people, how about we eat something healthier? So that Chick-fil-A goes away. We don't want to afford Chick-fil-A. Apparently, I am taking the 4 minutes. So I just think that the mayor should not be the mayor. She's been accused of a battery on a resident, and that's really, really bad. And apparently it is still being investigated, and we're going to see what happens there. It's my time.
Do it? Oh.
Countdown.
H, measure H, measure S. All these fucking measures, and our planning commission don't get involved to fix them. Let's take, for example, hypothetically, the YMCA here in Downey. $14 million to put an old 70 piece of shit building, modernize it up to date. But why are they asking, this nonprofit asking commissioners and a fat mayor, Fatty Frometta, for monies to finish the job? They're not paying excessive taxes on that fucking property because it's been paid off in the last 30 years. And now they're asking for handouts. The only handout I can tell them is 42 U.S.C. 1983. Fuck you, fuck off, and go get a fucking job. And pay for your own modernization for the YMCA. Because nobody want to see the clergy in there raping little boys. Isn't that where that started, that Christian YMCA? Fucking faggots sticking their jargons in some young boy's ass and filling them with lies? That's why I came up with Snyder versus Phelps, because it relates to Mario Guerra. God hates the USA. Thank God for 9/11. America's doomed. Don't pray for the USA. Thank God for IEDs. Fag troops, simplify fags. God hates fags. Maryland, Taliban, Fang Doom Nation, not blessed, just cursed. Men that fuck children will always be cursed. Why do you have to go to that extent to fuck a young boy in the ass and fill him with the wrong idea? Like Trujillo told me, it's okay to be gay. No, motherfucker. God hates homosexuality, Romans 1, 26 through 27. And I, a resident of the past Downey, feel the same way. I hate fucking faggots who stick their dicks in young boys' asses. Let's get it right. Let's get it straight. Yeah, I'm an LGBT queer, but I don't take it in the ass because I'm the quarterback throwing the pass. And you know what I mean by that, Duarte. Don't smile behind that computer because, like I said, we're all going to hell and God hates us. That's the reason why I'm filing on the record Snyder versus Phelps, because there's not enough housing. Matter of fact, Brandenburg versus Ohio, KKK, we're talking about white niggers burning people's homes during a time when niggers needed homes. Now we're demanding homes and we're not getting them because we have a fucked up president who gives money to Ukraine to build housing. We got a fucked up planning commission that gives money to other cities other than our own city to build for the public of interest. And don't get me wrong, Ortiz, you may have sold a lot of properties in your days, but I've sold properties and got the fuck out of it because I didn't want to look stupid explaining to the public that that's a very difficult way of engaging in property management. So I never became the entrepreneur like some of you dumb fucks. I took it upon myself to believe in the First Amendment, and I will exercise that with the majority of idiots who disagree with me with Brandenburg versus Ohio, US 395, 444, 1969. Because Duarte, being an attorney and a criminal attorney, knows it for a fact. If you're gonna fucking lie for your client, demand more money. But if you're not gonna fucking win, be prepared that that fucking client one day show up at your door when you're successful and you are no more. God bless America and God bless you. So here are my documents for the record. No offense, Brandenburg versus Ohio, US 395, 444, 1969. Because somebody's got to save us from America. Somebody's got to make us good.
All right, recapping. Somebody finally stood up tonight and did the right thing and voted no on something. Congratulations. Thank you very much. Somebody finally stood up and said no to the density issue, to the parking issue. I mean, what a disaster over there. But you're right. We're getting this shoved down our throat. We take dictation from the progressive liberal Democrat governor, a white liberal elitist running the white liberal plantation of the Democrat Party. And then we don't want a Confederate battle flag in here. That is a Democrat symbol, by the way. We don't need any of that stuff. We want freedom and liberty, and we want individuals to make their own minds about things. We don't want to be dictated to whether we get a permit or not, whether, if we don't have a vaccine passport. Nobody has a right to tell you you need to take a vaccine to go to a restaurant or to a ball game. What is that all about? And we have a mayor now that came in here repeatedly, being an employee of Kaiser Permanente, echoing Joe Biden, saying this is a pandemic of the unvaccinated. How absurd is that? Trying to demonize a group of people that don't want to take a poison shot or numerous poison shots. That's discrimination. You might as well put a gold star on them. No offense to the Jew that won't go back to Florida, but he understands. Okay? He understands that Jesus was a Jew. I'm a Jew. I'm a spiritual Jew, by the way, a grafted in Gentile. So I don't have any problem with being that. Some people, the latest council member that was recalled called me a white colonizer one night. I said, I don't believe this, man. It's just, if I owned everything that they say I did, I must have missed out on it somewhere along the line. But anyway, we had the mosque expansion. I don't know any Muslims. I do know they don't treat LGBTQ people very well. They throw them off of rooftops and says, well, if God wills it, it's only 4 stories high. If God wills it, nothing will happen to them. Well, that goes back to the 4th and 5th century where they just don't understand gravity very well, But these folks seem like decent folks to me. But I don't know any Muslims. Just leave them alone. Let them worship. Don't hold up any worship assembly rights, First Amendment rights for them. Okay? Leave them alone. Let them do their thing. Mr. Duarte, you made a statement that you can't dictate to people, and I want to bring up those mandates. That's what was happening to people. You were dictating them. You didn't approve permits like Circus Vargas unless they conformed to the restrictions. You're right. You can't dictate to them. You shouldn't have been able to. 4-0 on Chick-fil-A. We're going to miss the Frantones. We're going to miss them. They're an icon here. But we could have missed all that hour and a half just going back to the drawing board and letting everybody go back and do it over again, instead of all the yelling and stuff like that. Anyway, we can use a little more common sense. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Moving forward to consent calendar, seeing there's no consent calendar items, we're going to move forward to other business. Any commissioners like to discuss any new business? Commissioner Uva?
No, I have nothing.
Commissioner Guerra? Commissioner Duarte?
No.
Well, I mean, you guys are going to hate me. I only have 2 items, if I may. I'm going to make this very quick because we all want to go home. Very briefly, I saw the report that you guys put forward for Sprouts and Trader Joe's. I'm just putting it out there. Bed Bath & Beyond closed. Maybe Sprouts will be interested in something in there, and throwing just a small recommendation. And 2, I got a business owner who reached out to me that we approved her project on Firestone and Downey Avenue in the corner in front of Portos. She reached out again. And I know we approved her project or their project, my early planning commissioner, and they're saying they're having some issues. If we can reach out to them on progress or what's going forward with that project, I would greatly appreciate it. And that's the last of my comments for tonight. You got the same email? So I'm hoping staff can give us a report on something, because we did approve that project a couple of years ago, and then they're
Commissioner-
saying they're having some major issues with that.
Can you give me more information, because I don't know which project you're talking about.
I'll forward the email.
Or you could email me tomorrow.
It's a project in front of Portos on Downey Avenue and Firestone.
We'll
I'll send you the
communicate to, because I don't know what project it is, but I'll be more than happy to contact the applicant and discuss and find out what the issues are. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. I'll discuss the address with you guys after the meeting. Does the interim city planner have any additional comments for tonight?
Yes, for our next planning commission meeting, there's a few items I'll mention. There'll be a presentation that would be provided by a consultant, parking consultant on the downtown parking survey. That's an annual survey that the city's been doing, so there'll be a presentation on that. We have a public hearing for a conditional use permit to convert an auto repair facility and make it into a convenience market with off-sale beer and wine at 12603 Paramount Boulevard. A special event permit for the annual fundraising carnival event for Downey High School football. And a master sign program for 10301 Lakewood Boulevard. And on consent item, there'll be the general plan annual progress report. A master's special event, the Downey High School football fundraising. The 3 items, it's the conditional use permit for alcohol sales associated with a existing gas station that plans to convert auto repair into a convenience market.
Okay. Any other questions?
That's all I had.
Meeting adjourned.